how good was beers with BackChat?
I'll tell you what, when I think of good, I think of beers with BackChat.
Yeah. Dictionary meaning changed from good to beers with BackChat.
Little mini show, little Premiership team draw, a couple of beers with BackChat.
I can't keep going on with this. We record this
Jeez.
on a Monday.
That didn't.
It didn't take long. We record this on a Monday.
You can't sell anything.
No. Beers with BackChat is tomorrow night on a Tuesday.
Yes.
We record this on a Monday.
Yeah, so we're lying.
This episode comes out on a Thursday morning.
Yes.
I am anticipating it was one of the year's best events.
Yes. You know what we should actually have sold it as is the last opportunity you have to come out and have a beer before we get shut down as a community here in Western Australia.
Shut down.
Skepta.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Don't do that. No. I usually can't go with you. Social handles. We've got BackChat _. You can follow us over there.
Yep.
So it's starting to get a little bit of movement over on social. So I appreciate your support, your following. hello@backchatpodcast.com.au is our email. For you, send it.
We've got lots of emails.
It's a beautiful thing this week.
Yeah, I love it. I love seeing that inbox fill up. We got an email from Google actually recently that was like, guys, just relax on the emails. You're getting a lot in.
Wow.
Just keep an eye on your.
If I knew off the top of my head who the Mark Zuckerberg was of Google, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, Mark.
The Mark
Googleberg.
guy that does Google.
Yeah.
Now,
before we keep going on,
okay.
social media things.
Yes.
Reddit.
Yes. Are we all good?
We've discussed in the past how I've been banned by trying to spread content amongst channels on Reddit.
I mean, I will go on record and say that I didn't think Reddit was a good idea, but I'm happy to say I was wrong because it's been great for our following, our audience, our content. It's been great.
The thing I don't like about Reddit is that you get patted on the back for posting things about Channel 7, Fox Footy, all of that stuff. Post as much of that as you want. But any original content that you make, that you put up on the little AFL sub, they penalise you. They're like, no, don't promote yourself. Anyways,
So no,
Charlie,
no self-proclamation.
Yeah, no, you don't. You're not allowed to do that. If you've made your own content, don't share it.
Okay.
Charlie, help me out here. You recently...
Hi, Charlie.
Howdy.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. So Dan uploaded a video to the Reddit AFL community there.
Yes.
And he asked, go give it a bit of juice, bit of
Yeah,
love and support. So I went and I upvoted it. That's what the liking is on Reddit.
Yep.
And I was banned for 3 days from Reddit.
Yeah, for liking content
it.
that we made.
Not even on my BackChat.
I was going to say, may I ask, is your username still BackChat Charlie? Because I feel like that's still a bit of a dead giveaway that you may be involved in this podcast.
This was not on the BackChat Charlie account. This was on my personal account. And I just uploaded it and they gave me...
Chat back, Charlie.
Yeah.
I need to give a huge shout out to...
So yeah, go fuck yourself, Reddit. Perfect. Yeah.
What would you say that username is?
Kopeth.
Kopeth.
Yep.
I messaged
Kopeth.
Kopeth on during the week and I said, hey, if I post on Reddit, I'm going to get banned. You like the show. If you want to post something in the AFL sub for us, please post it. And they did. And it happened. So thank you.
And you just identified them all, and Kopeth will be banned next week.
Nah, that'll be fine.
Yeah, Reddit's an interesting case, but you know what? We move on. That's fine. YouTube, if you are listening to us, haven't watched us do our thing, we are in a studio. We built our own little thing down the garage. It's evolved over the time we've been doing this, but we are on YouTube. You can find us. Just search BackChat. It'll pop up. We've got our tagging going well now, and it's pretty fun. I think from the feedback I've had, it's more interesting sometimes to watch us do our thing because you can kind of
Sit there with us.
Yeah, a little bit more interaction. So if you haven't done that, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are not a Patreon and you would like to be one, I've got some news for you. One, as you know, I've been banging on about it for a few weeks now. Fantasy League is open. If you'd like to win 2 grand final tickets, that's how you do it. You sign up to Patreon. You can do that either on Patreon and search for BackChat, or you can jump on our website, backchatpodcast.com.au. Little pop-up will take you there, or follow any of the links on our socials, and it's the little jingling little baby that does its thing over on our social link. You can sign up to Patreon. Now, we've been giving our patrons a few things over the time we've been doing this, a bit of an early release, some little inside access. We'll be bringing you more as we go, so you got to be a patron member to win the 2 grand final tickets for AFL Fantasy.
I know it's happening. It still doesn't feel real. That's a crazy prize.
I've got something else for our guys.
What?
And girls.
Yep.
Whippersnapper Distillery, who beautifully provide us with the finest whiskey of all time, and just smoothing out things a little bit on the podcast. Just think about how stiff and rigid we would be without just a nice little responsible nip of whiskey, other than Josh Garlop, who should have been enjoying responsibly. Whippersnapper Distillery, they look after us.
Big time.
And you know what? They look after our patrons too.
Huge.
There's a discount code coming up on Patreon.
What, for a discount on their whiskey?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, we've got a code. I'm going to tell you it right. No, you know what? You can't get that unless you're a patron. We told you.
Clever.
We told you we'd look after them.
We are.
And Whippersnapper Distillery, some of the best in the business. Got to pick up a bit more whiskey this week.
Yep.
Loaded us up again.
I got to be honest.
Oh, please do.
Sometimes go to bed at night and I think, how can we... No, I go to bed every night. How can we better the experience for our patrons? And this is one. Because I worry. I think about it.
We've absolutely done it. Beers with BackChat. Yeah, like we said, it was a beautiful night on Tuesday night. No, we haven't done that yet, but I'm sure it will be a good night. We're doing our Premiership sweep where everyone there has the opportunity to be registered with a team of the 18 teams. We'll pick 18 names out of the hat that are there on the night, and they'll get a team where we put the money on for them. We're placing 18 bets.
Yep.
Amount to be determined.
Yep.
It won't be a silly amount high or low. It'll be fair.
Depends how many beers happen at Beers with
Very
BackChat.
good. So we'll have 18 riding the journey with us this year. And we're just going to have a couple of other little moments there. So I hope, speaking on Thursday now, speaking on Monday now, Tuesday's a good night, and we do it again. It'll be good to do again.
Would 100% definitely do it again.
All right, let's...
One in every state, calling it now.
Oh, boy. Okay, so let's have a bit of a look around the world of sport right now. We've covered your Reddit adventures during the week. We've been banned, so that's fine.
We'll get back.
Sir Swamp thing, big friend of the family, Sir Swamp, and we've been doing our thing with him as per usual. He sent through a couple of pearlers this week.
He did.
I featured him one.
You did.
Yes.
Just quickly, Sir Swamp, if you're on Twitter and you see does stats, and maybe you're new to listening to BackChat, we interviewed him a while ago. Just search Sir Swamp thing BackChat. You can listen to like an hour of him talking. It's very good.
You know, he's actually the biggest celebrity we've ever had on here because he's the only one who said you cannot show my face.
Yep.
The
biggest diva we've had.
Yeah.
Not diva.
He's just happy with his privacy, and I agree with it. But that's how much of a big dog he is.
Yep.
You're never going to know what he looks
privacy.
like. He's a good man, Sir Swamp. So get over and do that. He gave us a couple of stats this week.
One, let's talk about your involvement first. So this is the most career games with 5 or fewer round 1 appearances. So you played how many seasons?
14.
14. So you were talking about this sort of last week, week before, that you don't think you featured in many round 1 games.
Yeah, I know I didn't.
You knew you didn't.
Not exactly the amount, but I know that I just wasn't picked round 1. Yeah. I still played a lot of games.
But I don't think you knew to the extent of how big of a deal it was that you weren't picked round 1.
No.
So what's the stat? Most career games with 5 or fewer round 1 appearances. The most...
It's in the history of the AFL. The most games played by anyone picked under 5 games in round 1.
Yep, that's right.
I'm in the top 5, baby.
You're in the top 5.
To have ever done anything.
Let's go from...
Don't scoff and laugh. That's a fact.
No,
what are you laughing about?
Because it's not usually a stat that you want to be associated with.
You got any stats that you've been in the top 5 in the world to have ever done it? Because no one else... Don't worry, it's Australian Footy League, but that's fine. There's no one else in the world who've done this, Dan. You got any of those for me?
Let's just go through it.
Didn't think so.
221 games. Barry Mitchell had only played 5 round 1 games.
West Australian. Barry Mitchell.
There you go.
Yeah.
Barry Mitchell. Next in line, Damien Hardwick.
Quite a good player, you'd say.
Yep.
Quite a good coach, you'd even
say.
Very
good coach. 207 games, only played 5 round 1 games. Didn't get picked that often. Not a relative of yours, but maybe. If we went deep into the family tree.
Sure, I mean, everyone's related, aren't they?
Sorry. Jared Schofield, 206 games, only got picked 5 times.
Port Adelaide, Fremantle, West Coast. Do you go Freo as well as West Coast?
I don't know if you went, Charlie, Freo?
Yeah, look at that, Charlie. I definitely went West Coast, Port Adelaide, for sure.
Then next, of course, 194 big ones, Will Schofield.
Fourth in the world.
In the entire
world
universe.
Ever. to have ever done it.
To have ever done it.
I'm pretty happy with it. To be honest, it's a good stat. You say it's not a stat you want to be associated with. This is a good stat.
Because
it shows, the reason. Okay, you tell me what it is.
I guess what it shows is that longevity of your career, 194 games. It wasn't that you were certain in game one of the season, but you always showed that you could do it.
It shows a few things. One,
Go on.
I mean, I must have been a horrible preseason trainer because that's how they get picked, and especially if you're not an everyday player, every game selected player. But secondly, like the reason that I'm up there is because usually when that happens, you don't keep a career going. Like it's gone. You don't get picked round one. You're doing it regularly. But I had a bit of something in me. I had a little bit of grit.
You just needed to be told no once, and then you're back.
Well, or
5 times.
Or 11 times.
Yeah, 11 times. Yeah, that's right.
But that's all good.
Okay.
You get that for us, Charlie?
So you were correct.
I know I was.
Eagles, Port, Fremantle.
That's quite good, actually.
Yeah.
Both Western Australian teams in Port Adelaide. Now he's been coach at Port Adelaide and now coach at West Coast. Must be a Schofield thing. If Matthew Richardson had played every possible game from debut, so this is for our guest coming up this week, Matty Richardson. I asked Sir Swan, what's the best he got on Matty? If he played every possible game from debut to the final match and maintained his career average goals per game, he would have finished with over 1,000 goals. 1,000 goal club would have him in the top 5 to have ever done it. He finished his career at 12th of all time, so he's no slouch regardless.
It's no scrub.
Had 199 career games with 2+ goals, missed out on the double century. And he had 99 career games with 4+ goals, missed out in the century. So it was a game of just, but he finished his career on 800 exactly. So he finally got there. Didn't get to play in a grand final and therefore a premiership. He's got a pretty interesting story and we'll get to him in a little bit.
You know what, though?
Yeah.
Didn't get to play in many finals, and these stats include finals. A lot of these players up in the top there played a lot of finals games.
That's a very good point. He may well be better than stats.
Yeah, that's right. If he's had the team around him to push him to finals games,
should have come to West Coast probably. Yep. Fantasy League's open, as we talked about. Sign up to Patreon, become a patron of the podcast, support us. I mean, not only does it support us, and we are incredibly appreciative of every patron we have. There's over 100. There's definitely over 100 patrons. There's 81 teams in the Fantasy League. You have a 1 in 81 person chance of winning 2 grand final tickets. There is nowhere, I'll tell you right now, there is nowhere that offers those sort of odds to win a grand final tickets.
And
yes, times 2.
I know there's a fair chunk of those people who have no idea what they're doing with fantasy and they just want to be in it to win it.
Yeah, you.
Yep, there you go.
Charlie. Oh, are you in it yet?
Yep, myself. Yeah.
I'll put you in the bin.
There you go.
You're going straight in the bin if you haven't signed up yet. Have you signed up or not? Don't. Mate, how's the audacity? Yeah, I've signed up. Yeah, me.
No, I'm one of the bad ones. I'll be there.
It's his birthday. He thinks he can do whatever he wants.
Happy birthday, Charlie.
Yep.
I mean, Cat's beating you in a lot of areas at the moment, Charlie. The cocktail challenge, bye-bye.
Let's not.
Most other departments, bye-bye. And Charlie, let's be honest, your organisation, mate, it's not good enough. You get joined up. Get signed up.
Yeah, it's coming.
You're a grown man now.
How-to guides will be coming a little bit as well. I did promise them last week. I'm a liar.
Sometimes things take longer because they're going to be so good.
Yes. Charlie, if you could just give me a bit more action, mate, that'd be fantastic. Selby Listier will be joining us before the season starts. So
Which is very soon.
He runs Moira's Magic. They do amazing things. So if you do want to do well in ours to win the grand final tickets, I'd suggest signing up to him. But there's so many things to sign up to. We're not going to bang on about that too much.
Yep.
Little look around sport. Mason Cox is wearing sunglasses in games of football. I'm just going to, that's it. There's not much else to say there.
I just want to ask one question. Is he going to have the strap that like keeps him around his neck if they fall off? Or are they going to be, is he going to be constantly like trying to pick up sunglasses?
Potentially we could roll with some transitions maybe. You know, like imagine being indoors, you got the stadium at Etihad.
Yep, true.
Could you get some transition lenses? Like why do they have to be sunglasses? What happens at night games?
Infrared.
Sorry?
Infrared goggles.
Or like X-ray vision type setup.
Yeah, night vision. Sorry, night vision is what I meant.
Yeah. Okay. So yes or no from you with Mason wearing sunglasses?
Big fan.
Big fan.
Yeah.
Have you seen photos of it?
Yeah, it looks ridiculous.
His
That's why I want it.
Setup is just shocking. It's both socks up. He's got a shin pad, probably 2 shin pads, which is outrageous to start with. He's tucked in. He's all in black. He's got the Matrix. He's got the Neo Matrix sunglasses. Neo wore them as well.
Oh, no, sorry, not Morpheus. Morpheus has no frame.
Right. So
Morpheus has the 2.
So when I said Neo, you mean...
You were right, yeah, Matrix.
Perfect. Yep. Usually you're good with me with Charlie shaking his head. You want to go check it?
No, I was agreeing with you. It was
Okay.
Neo.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Thank you, Dan. That'll be all for you today. Now...
I'm done.
We come to a very... it's become a favourite part of the podcast for mine. Why your team can win the 2022 Premiership.
This is a hard week.
I will start with... Look, I said we're doing an alphabetical order, and sometimes on this podcast I do rely on others to help me with some things. Charlie had done the alphabetical list.
Mm-hmm.
How did you go with that, Charlie?
Oh, great. I think I could go back to first grade.
So we went... I think last week we did Fremantle, Essendon and Geelong.
No, we did Geelong.
Great
GWS,
Western Sydney.
And Hawthorn.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Oh, no. What did we miss back at G?
Forgot there was 3 G teams.
Yeah, Gold Coast.
Okay.
Don't worry, most people forget there's that third G team.
Whack. Dan starts off with a bang. Why Gold Coast can win the 2022 Premiership? Gold Coast. Don't you laugh at me.
Okay, no. How can Gold Coast win the 2022 AFL Premiership?
We've seen Gary Ablett.
Harley Bennell.
Harley Bennell's been there.
Yep.
We've seen Carmichael Hunt do his thing up in the Gold Coast. Jeez, he had some fun on and off the field, did Carmichael. But who's the new king of the castle? Benny King.
He's injured, right?
He's done his knee.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, how are they going to win? What about we get on the old tuk-tuk? Why don't we jump on the little... Why don't we pretend we're in Thailand?
Okay.
Padang, or down to Bangla Road and Bangla Stadium, Phuket, Thailand, on the tuk-tuk. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Took Miller, one of the greatest fantasy players to have ever played. He's been elevated to the captaincy this year. He's the man to get... He's going to put the team on his back. Tuk-tuk. You can do it in fantasy. You can do it in real life. Gold Coast for the flag in 2022.
Matty Rowell. Another name.
Okay. Matty Rowell.
Was almost a Brownlow lock.
Oh, no. He was Brownlow favourite coming into the season last year. He was the guy.
And then in the first 4 or 5 weeks, everyone's like, okay.
No, like last year in the first 4 or 5 minutes, he did his shoulder, mate. Bye-bye, Matty Rowell. He hasn't played footy for 2 years.
Yeah, sorry, season before. Yep,
he's
that's right.
back. Look, leave it to me, Dan. I'll tell you why. Matty Rowell, sunscreen on, sunglasses on. He may have applied for sunglasses like Mason Cox. I don't know. But he is a white man. He's got red hair.
Yep.
But that doesn't matter. He plays for the Suns, which is irony if I've ever heard it before in my life. Matty Rowell, Tuk. They're Stewie Dew for a flag. You see what I did there? They're absolutely Stewie Dew for a flag. The Gold Coast Suns, they play this trumpet noise at the Suns when they kick goals. It comes out of the stadium. It sounds something like this. That's the Premiership noise.
That's happened 3 times, I think, in the last season. No.
Odds to win it, 101 to 1.
Yes. So with our Premiership sweep that we're doing,
Yes.
if you pick Gold Coast, it could be a life-changing moment.
You can't say Gold Coast can't win.
No.
You just can't.
Anything could happen. Every team could come down with hay fever and never be able to play again.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, Melbourne.
Yeah.
The Melbourne Demons. They did it over here in the West. One of the greatest grand finals you'll ever see. Head-to-head with Western Bulldogs for a half, and then they just went whack out of the middle.
Whack.
Melbourne Demons. Why can they win the 2022 Premiership?
Ben Brown.
Oh, no. That is not where I was
Key
going.
forward. Consistent.
Oh, God.
Change clubs, found a better situation, can lead them to victory. Is that what you were going to say?
I can't argue with you. I mean, Benny Brown, he's gone to bigger and better things after he's been my bunny for a long time, Ben Brown. Well, since I've left the league, we've seen him blossom into the player he is today. Ben Brown, the Melbourne Demons, you got Oliver, Petrarca. Their captain and their ruckman has the best beard in the AFL.
Yep.
And their coach gets on the piss and the punt with the boys all the time. And they don't care.
He's a player's coach.
They actually support it.
Oliver's jaw seems much stronger these days. If he cops a little whisper on the chin, he might not go down as easy.
I believe the tribunal term was feather.
Feather, sorry, not a whisper.
Melbourne Demons, flag 2022. Now, I won't do it again, but after M comes N. And Melbourne's odds to win the flag, Gold Coast were at 101.
Yep.
Melbourne at $4.
Yeah, okay.
They're certainty to win it. Absolutely certainty to win it. Now, after M comes N. North Melbourne. Just up the road from Melbourne. North Melbourne, why can they win the flag? I actually had to put my thinking head on for this one. And
we got this.
I absolutely do. Mm-hmm. Does Brent Harvey play there anymore?
No.
Wayne Carey, the Roo Boy.
No, I don't think he's doing much these days.
Ben Brown.
Unfortunately, moved clubs after, tumultuous time being your bunny.
Okay. North Melbourne. This is why they can win the flag. They got the number 1 draft pick.
2 words.
Horn Francis.
Yep. Another 2 words.
Okay.
Shin boner. Spirit.
Okay. Now, Dan, I'm glad you brought that up because it doesn't matter how bad North Melbourne is. It doesn't matter how bad the facilities are. Chuck them out in the car park. Chuck them in the tip. They just get it done. The shin boner Spirit, Glenn Archer, Anthony Stevens.
Go to Tassie, win a game.
Adam Simpson. These boys set the culture of the club many, many moons ago. And that's why I think they can win. Bring the shin boner Spirit, pull your socks up, tuck your jumper in and get into it, boys.
Who is North Melbourne's best player right now?
Ben Brown.
Jaden Stevenson.
Okay, you think? You don't know, but you hope.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Could he do something?
It's a potential.
Who knows?
North Melbourne potentially could win the flag in
Odds?
2022. $81. So they're a little bit shorter than Gold Coast. So if you're looking for a bit of value,
Bit of a roughie.
There you go, North Melbourne. Thanks very much for coming. Premiership for them in 2022.
Go the Roos. Do you remember?
That was a tough sell. Sorry.
Do you remember a period of time where North Melbourne were just referred to as Kangaroos and not North Melbourne?
Yeah, Wayne Carey is Roo Boy. Wayne Carey is Roo Boy. Do you not know who these ads?
No.
Like Rolf Harris involved in a wobble board incident, and I'm not. Yeah,
Don't into it.
Wayne Carey is Roo Boy. Look, there'll be lots of people listening. They're going, Dan, mate, how do you not know this? Charlie, do you know this?
No clue.
Wayne Carey is Roo Boy. They used to play the record back, and Wayne Carey had morphed with a kangaroo, and they'd made some sort of kangaroo man, and it was Wayne Carey. Anyway,
all right.
Please continue.
No, I was just going to say that they weren't affiliated with North Melbourne for a while. They were just a locationless club. They were just referred to as Kangaroos.
Maybe we should just take it out of Arden Street and just pull it back into the Kangaroos.
Yep, all right.
Before we get to Matty Richardson.
And you send it, we read it.
Yep, that's correct. Going to do a little bit more media watch, which is come back onto the agenda here at BackChat. I appreciate some people pointing some stuff out during the week, but the best of the lot is Eddie Maguire is not returning to Fox Footy this year. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I think Eddie's good for the league.
For the game, right?
Yeah. Eddie's good for the game.
I mean, in terms of systems and actual role playing, he does. He's a main anchor on Fox Footy. He anchors when they're in the studio. He does a lot of play-by-play calling. People notoriously don't like his material,
especially over in the West.
Well, it's because of that. It's because he's too Collingwood-centric and he, doesn't get as excited when other teams do well. But I agree with you. I don't think Eddie's good for the game. He's not a silly operator, Eddie. He's been doing a lot of things at a high level for a long time. I said the same about Kane Corns last week. Yep. I don't think that anyone in the media is just rolling around not knowing what they're doing. You look at Billy Brownless types in the media.
Yep.
Billy's a smart operator.
Same with BT. He cops a bit.
BT.
He knows what he's doing.
Look, I'll give you a little prequel here to Matty Richardson. I'm going to ask him about a game show that he was involved in during his career. Billy Brownless beat him in that game show. So that's to say the intelligence of Billy Brownless.
Okay.
He's a smart operator, smart cookie.
Very smart.
Should we do you send it, we read it? Where if you send it, we read it. You
that's
send it
the rules.
hello@backchatpodcast.com.au. Unlike social media, unlike questions to the guest, unlike a look around the grounds, unlike Media Watch, unlike our preview of the show, unlike chatting to Charlie, unlike anything else on this show, if you send it, we will read it. Unless you are Ben, who we still are pending your email because It is too detailed.
It's that good. We're trying to figure out how we do best.
We promise we're going to use it. We are not men not of our words. Yes, that's a double negative. But you send it, we read it. hello@backchatpodcast.com.au.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me.
That's fine. It's from Montana Nichols.
Okay. I know Montana. She's a runner. I'm pretty sure she's a runner in the States.
Okay. Hey, BackChat team. I'm privileged to have lots of links to BackChat.
Just see if you can read.
Firstly,
yeah.
Long-time listener. You could attend to that.
Mm-hmm.
Worked at the West Coast team store for 4 years, which made for lots of game day memories and funny play interactions.
No one ever used to know anyone's names in there, so I'm assuming I would have had to deal with Montana, and I would have been very nice. But they didn't used to wear name tags. And so sometimes when you get in that situation, especially if you see someone multiple times, it gets past the point of...
Yeah, you can't introduce yourself. It's awkward.
And they know you too. Chris Marston used to work in the team store. I wonder if Montana worked with him.
Probably it did. Another link is... Sorry, I've just lost here. Went to Ohio State, so loved hearing from Cameron Johnson a few weeks ago.
Okay, good.
Which was our little NFL nod there.
Go Buckeyes.
Yep. The startup I work for, Studium, shares an office with Whippersnapper, but I'm yet to run into Dan in the cafe.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Whippersnapper.
There
Official
you go.
whiskey suppliers.
And make good coffee too.
Okay.
In short, love the podcast. Okay, so a few episodes ago, you mentioned you wanted to interview someone from the most watched sports. I'm a co-founder of Australian Pitching Development, a
baseball. Girl, Montana.
I know, a baseball development program website. We also have a podcast called Move the Mound Back. There you go.
That's quite
go
good,
listen
actually.
to it.
It's quite good.
Very good. So we can definitely put you in touch with a couple of guest options, local or in the US. No pressure. Just thought I'd reach out. Montana.
I would love to speak to someone from baseball.
Mm-hmm. Baseball.
Oh, batter up, I think.
Batter up.
Baseball.
Is that what they say in baseball? They just say the name of the sport.
Oh my God.
Nah, I'm pretty sure baseball is a thing they say.
Baseball. Batter up.
Yep.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Or
swing. Batter.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Luke Hill. Let's go. Let's move on. I'm going to take you up on that option. Thank you, Montana.
Okay. No subject. Very good. Thanks for that. I just finished listening to the Lewis Jetta episode and was blown away by the stories he told across the entire pod. I had no idea about how recent the stolen generation was and how big an impact it has today among the Indigenous community. The struggles Lewis had with mental health and how open he was, and finally his influence around the club. It was a very good episode. Just search Lewis Jetta BackChat on YouTube. Yeah, it's all there. It's very good.
If you're new to the pod, go find it.
I thought the interview was done really well by you and Will. I thought you handled the highly sensitive topics.
Don't skip that. I think this is an important part of this email.
So I thought the interview was also done really well by you and Will, and I'm guessing Dan is reading this, which I am.
Oh, right, okay.
Because it's like you and to me.
I thought, yeah, okay.
Yep, no. I thought you handled the highly sensitive topics in a way that allowed Lewis to be honest, while at the same time respecting his experiences. I thought this was the best content that BackChat has put out, or the best content in Australian media in 2022. It's a big call. We really appreciate it.
I mean, it's spot on.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Easily my top 2. My question is, during Jetta's time at West Coast, he was under media scrutiny quite a lot, with pundits often criticising his attitude and willingness. Do you think pundits should maybe step away from describing players as lazy and non-caring? In the modern game, players train hard, maintain a strict diet, and are under constant scrutiny to perform every week. And commentators describing Lewis Jetta as lazy back when he first was traded now seem plain stupid in hindsight. Cheers, guys.
Very good. Thank you, Luke. I mean, there's a few examples, but yeah, I think potentially. I mean, lazy is actually a lazy way to look at it, right? It's a lazy term spoken by. Like, how would you know? For starters, how would you know as a commentator or as a fan or anyone else if someone's being lazy? It may be a perception, and that certainly was what it was with Lewis. A good example, we put some of our highlights together, and I wrote an article on the episode on Lewis and some of his experiences, and there was a comment on social media, which I went to absolute bloody town on today, and I loved it. It said when Lewis Jetta almost missed the final with Call of Duty, it said... Well, he missed Sydney's final series as well. He never gave us anything at the footy club in that regard either.
Right.
I just gave him a friendly little reminder that how do you think you got to the 2012 grand final/final series. Lewis Jetta in 2012 was your leading goal
an
kicker.
absolute beast that year.
Just remember, there's only one best player every week, and there's only 6 best players every week. It can't be the same people, and it certainly can't be the whole team. So every single week of the year, there's blokes that aren't in the best players. And if you don't do that on grand final day, it doesn't mean that you haven't contributed, you don't have a role to play. It's just a bad game, and that's all right.
Sometimes it's not even a bad game. It's just playing a role, and you're not aware of the role.
Do I think that they should be just stop describing that in media? No, I don't know. The criticism stuff, I think Matty Richardson will sit in the same basket as me. Like, yeah, you gotta remember how hard the game is sometimes, and just keep a balanced lens on things. Don't get too carried away. Happy, sad, somewhere in the middle is good.
Very good. Okay, I think you should read the next one because there's a bit directed at me.
Okay,
from
cool.
Rick Peterson.
Your voice might need a rest a little bit. This is from Ricky Peterson. He's YouTube unpacking. Thank you, Rick. Hello, gang. Just watched the incredible Jetta interview on YouTube instead of listening, as I normally do. Thanks for tuning in, Rick. I hope you subscribed. If you haven't, get onto that, mate.
It's one click.
2 things. It actually really helps the podcast if you do that. That's why we keep banging on about it. If you subscribe, we can get to a secret little number, and then we're going to be able to do some cool things. 2 things immediately became evident. 1, I was amazed at the pasty, podgy, almost anemic-looking Daniel Const, the very same man pretending to be an athlete, inverted commas, an all-round premiership winning champion across a multitude of sports. Give me a spell, Dan. The jig is up, Daniel. I hereby encourage everyone listening to subscribe to the YouTube channel and see for yourselves the greatest con ever inflicted on a podcast audience in the history of mankind. That is just spot on, Rick. And he's even telling people to subscribe to see what sort of lies that you're throwing around.
There's a trophy up there, mate.
I thought we were burning that. Were we not burning? When are we going to incinerate
it's under
it?
investigation. We're looking for an incinerator.
Yep.
There's also, yeah, I'd love to see the Dan Const playing cards. I've got a few of mine, actually. Anyway, okay. Number 2. I noticed the little finger on Will's left hand is not straight.
Is that legit, or are you...
That is very good, Rick. And I paused for anyone just listening and not
That
watching.
is filthy. I don't know.
Did you break that finger, Will? Thanks again for letting us in on the life of Lewis Jetta. Yours, Rick Peterson. All good sometimes on Instagram. He's a big contributor of the podcast.
Yep.
That's a very good pickup. He's never watched it before, and that's what he's picked up. So, yes, I'm showing you now. That's what do you think of that one, Charlie?
That's awful.
You like that little one?
Doesn't look great, does it?
So there is another team member that we might actually post something on social, Charlie, if you can remind me. There's a team member, Premiership teammate of mine, that has hands that look a lot worse than this. This is from just a multitude of years of copping balls and trying to catch balls with your hands for 15 years.
Yep.
And you dislocate them, you jar them, you don't strap them correctly, you don't heal them properly, you play through things. And that ain't never straightening up.
You know what? A lot of, the best sort of quarterbacks and pitchers in major leagues have like these...
Baseball!
Have these like weird things with their hands that give them like little like advantages in throwing the ball.
Oh, no.
So like, a quarterback...
Big hands.
No, like a broken finger that like puts this like special little spin on the ball because their finger's like in a weird spot. Baseball players, they can throw these nice little curveballs.
Dislocate their little finger.
But you didn't
help me in any way, shape or form. In fact, it hindered my career because I used to have to strap them together quite a lot, the little finger and the middle finger or the whatever that one, the ring finger.
Yep.
And it made trying to mark.
Like a Ninja Turtle.
Or spoil. How do you spoil like that?
Yeah,
so you end up bunging them up again. Doesn't work. I really like reading that. Do you reckon I read another one? I mean, you get all the social media.
Go.
Bruce Cockman.
Pineapple is the subject.
Cockman, maybe. Hi, guys. Love the podcast. And the 2 hours this week is not enough. Sometimes I think we go a little bit too long. We get a bit carried away, but that's good feedback. I like it. Will's reaction to the pineapple on pizza question made me think. I need to give a shout out to the Hungry Jack's Tropical Burger. The pineapple in the burger is bloody delicious, and it should be standard on the menu.
Okay, I'll say this,
Bruce.
Boy. I'm a pineapple pizza fan. Pineapple in a burger doesn't belong. It's too far. I'm happy to toe the line with pineapple on pizza. Burgers.
Do you like cooked apple?
in an apple pie.
Cooked banana.
No.
Yeah, cooked fruit doesn't go. Don't do it anywhere. Just leave it fresh and enjoy it as it should be, cold. I was looking forward to beers with BackChat. So are we, Brucey boy.
It was really good.
On Tuesday, on Tuesday, which is tomorrow for us. But, you listen to this Thursday, so I'm sure it was good. Made plans with some mates to go. There was going to be more than just me, Charlie, Kat, and Dan there. All right, got home and my wife, reminded me that we're going out to dinner Tuesday night with her friend for her birthday. We never do anything Tuesday nights, and I'm a bit flat, if you can tell by my voice. And I can't go to beers with BackChat. That's a little bit why we did put it on a Tuesday. We thought it might just be a nice little day. I'm not trying to make it. We're going on a bender. I mean, we can get involved to that if you like.
No, if I get home at 3 a.m., it's gonna be rough.
You'll be up soon, won't you?
Yeah, I'll be up soon. But I think that's a perfect opportunity for you to say, wife, partner, babe, whatever you say. It's your friend's birthday. You go. I want you to go. I'm going to go to beers with BackChat. You go have a great time. I'll see you later.
I feel for you, Brucey. I'm sad we didn't see it.
We'll do it again. I'm
sad we didn't see it. Beers with BackChat. What we got here, Dan?
Okay, this is from Ian. He says, can we get a shout out to the Bridgetown Football Club? Back-to-back premiers in the Lower Southwest Football League, and they're going for a 3-peat this year.
Shout out Bridgetown Football Club. What's up?
After probably going through a pretty shitty time with fires and stuff down there.
Well done, boys and girls.
I'm back in the 3-peat.
Love that.
Yep.
Up to Bridgetown.
All right, this is a big one. Been looking forward to reading this.
Connor Morrissey, we've been saying that Benny boy, we haven't read yours out. Look, Connor just scraped under the content time limit for us. If you had gone a couple more numbers here, we wouldn't have got to it. But you know what? You send it, we read it.
G'day, Scoey. Long-time listener here. I've ranked...
Hi, Dan.
That's cool. Hey, Connor. My chopped liver.
Yes, you are. You look a bit like that.
I've ranked my top 50 Eagles players ever.
Wow.
It's not based on best player ever, but which player do you look back on most and say, thank God they were a West Coast player? I'm not necessarily looking for a you send it, we read it. Shout out. Well, you've already got here, mate. But more just keen to know what you think of the list and the concept. Full disclosure, I'm not old enough to have seen our full history. Started following West Coast in 2004.
Okay, thanks for the great content over the years and great defending on Jordan DeGoey. You're bloody welcome, Connor Morrissey.
So here's some of the criteria that Connor has put together. So one, on-field, which takes into account their impact, longevity. Are they a premiership player? Moments they've done. Big moments, like Lewis Jetta with scoring the goal, celebrating like Cristiano Ronaldo.
Top 50, I suppose. We'll see.
Another one, culture, which takes into account the leadership, impact on teammates, legacy left, inspiring new ideas and innovation, which is a big one I love, and
this is Connor,
improving cohesion.
I don't know how. I mean, if you get some insight into inspiring new ideas and innovation, well done.
Yep. External impact takes into account fan engagement.
Good.
Which is a good one. Bringing people through the gates and getting the crowd excited when they go near the ball.
Wow.
And contributes to team image marketability. So that's the criteria.
Yes.
So I think
it's fair. And there's a lot of good things. It's better than a best and fairest.
Yeah.
Like imagine if they did a best and fairest. Yeah, well imagine they did a best and fairest on this. Like someone other than a midfielder might win it.
Could we send this to Nizzy and see what he thinks?
See what we can do.
Okay.
Top 50.
So this is the top 50. We've got it here, but I'm not going to read all top 50. No. But I'm going to give you first the top 5, and then we'll pick out some notable.
Why don't we just build it up for the people, mate?
Do you want to start from 50?
Yeah, let's go down to 51. We've got a 51 in the top 50.
Okay.
Which I love. Nathan Vardy, 51.
Yeah.
I love that Vardy is in the top 50 plus one players of all time.
He came over from Geelong, right?
Yeah, he did. 2017, 2018, we won 4 out of 5 finals. In each win, Vardy took on that year's All-Australian Ruckman and won each of those battles other than the 2018 qualifying final. Plenty of huge moments in the 2017 elimination final and 2018 grand final. Couldn't leave him out because we simply don't win the flag number 4 without him.
Stepped up when Nick Naitanui went down.
Yep, I agree. I'll give you some people that have missed out on this before we get to the rest. So Michael Gardner's missed out. Tyson Stengler, Matty Rosa, ex-team under mine. Chris Marston's missed out. Huge. Oh, there you go. Scotty Cummins, talking about huge. He's missed out.
Ryan Turnbull, number 50.
There you go. Ashley Hanson's missed out. Scotty Selwood, he was a vice-captain at one stage of this footy club. Mitch White, former number 31. Scotty Lysaght, another ruckman, so he's taking Vardy over Lysaght.
Went past Fraser Garrick.
Oh, my boy, I missed him in under that mullet. I missed the G-train.
Definitely want Fraser Garrick on the pod.
Current day players who missed out, Tim Kelly, Liam Duggan, Oscar Allen. He thinks they need a few more years. Let's go up from 51 and take some interesting ones, I reckon, Dan.
So, Daniel Chick, speaking of weird things with their hands, was missing half a ring finger.
Yeah, cut it off. Instead of getting surgery and missing 8 weeks, he just cut his finger off and played 2 days later. That's no joke.
Yep.
He injured in finals Thursday. You either have surgery and you cannot touch a football for 8 to 10 weeks. You miss finals, miss everything. Or we'll just chop it off. He looked the surgeon in the eye and said, we're chopping it off now. Went straight to the surgery, chopped his finger off, played 2 days later.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Dom Sheed
46.
Kicked a crazy
Big
goal.
moment. Still young. Probably can move his way up a little bit, I think.
Yep. We got to mention Will Schofield at 43 because you're here. Big culturally and played plenty of excellent footy. Best beard in the club and worst hairline.
Ah, perfect.
I think you're missing Mr. Shanahan.
Yeah.
Where do you feel that? 43 is pretty high.
I'm happy to get into 50 for sure.
I'm the best players ever for a club, number 43.
Well, if he's put Vardy at 51, they don't win the flag without Vardy. Well, they certainly don't win it without me. So there you go.
Yep, there you go.
Do you want me to be honest about it? Didn't think so. Jack Darling's in at 38. He could be sliding straight off the scale if he continues his behaviour over the last couple of weeks.
Lewis Jetta, 37.
Fair.
Huge.
Sammy Butler just in before him. Another guest to the podcast, 36. 35, Chad Fletcher. There you go. Bang, bang, bang.
And we only missed one, David Weir, before we get to 33, Tom Brass. It was a great episode. And I've had multiple people tell me best episode of a podcast I've ever heard with Tom Brass, which is great. You can listen to it. Okay. I just almost don't want to miss anyone. Quinton Lynch. A cult figure, threw the glove off, the crowd goes wild, kicks goals.
There you go. We're going to win
anyone
through
you want
this.
to mention?
Eric McKenzie, 24. Beautiful man.
Yeah, true.
Andrew Embley, 21. I reckon that's a bit stiff. I think he's probably higher than that, to be really honest. Norm Smith medal. Up there in top 5 games played for the club.
Yep.
Did a lot on and off the field.
I'll say Matt Prittis at 17.
Won a Brownlow medal.
How many Eagles players have won Brownlow medals?
In a leadership group a lot of his time.
3?
3. Yes.
And he's 17.
I'd bring him up a little bit, but that's okay. Peter Sumich, 14.
Yep.
You can slide him down a little bit, Summer, I reckon.
He's
a very, 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 very good player, Peter Sumich.
Number 7, Chris Judd. Would have been number 1 with another 4 to 5 seasons, which is a good point.
Yeah, he left.
Yeah.
He abandoned ship, so he's gone. Then we give him the top 10, but just red. +1. Luke Shuey at 11. Shannon Hearn, 10. So captain, 9. John Worsfold, captain.
Coach.
Jeremy McGovern, 8. Captain for a little bit, 1 or 2 games. Chris Judd, captain. 6, Glenn Jakovic.
Beast.
Yeah, big beast. You don't want to put him any lower. He'd be
Dean Cox at number 5. Potentially one of the greatest ruckmen to ever do it.
The fact that Dean Cox is at 5 probably says something a little bit about West Coast. Like, he would be number 1 for most clubs around the AFL.
100%.
Josh Kennedy, number 4. Still going too, the old bastard. Number 3, Peter Matera, Indigenous player. Roo, his nickname was Peter Matera. So did a lot both on off the field, had some superb moments, especially in finals. Couldn't go
Pretty
past
awesome.
him.
Yep.
Darren Glass,
awesome
number
player.
2, captain. Didn't captain a premiership, but was a captain for a long period of time, especially after a bit of a tumultuous period for the footy club.
Yep.
Darren Glass, leader, on, off. Pretty high, really, considering he doesn't have any. He doesn't have a Brownlow, doesn't have a Norm Smith. Best and fairest?
He'd be up. He would have been top 3 at least.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm sure he won one. I'm sure he won a best and fairest. Number 1, who have we missed?
Ben Cousins.
I'm just worried. Daniel Kerr, he was at 12. Ben Cousins, number 1, would come first based on any of the 3 criteria, being external impact, culture, or on-field. His elite work ethic lives on through those he inspired. Prittis learn off him. Shuey, Gaff, Kerr.
Yeah, that's also very true.
And
a lot of these players on this list would have been playing as and just watching him, inspiring.
He played at Richmond too, so perhaps we can ask this man coming up, Matty Richardson, what he thought of Ben Cousins.
Very good.
Let's do it. Alrighty, straight into it. We are joined here, I was going to say in studio, but we, as you said, Dan, we don't quite have the budget just yet on BackChat to be flying our guests. We are joined by the great Matthew Richardson. G'day, Richo.
G'day, Scully. How you going, mate?
I'm good, mate. Richo, meet Dan. Richo.
Hello.
Dan. Hello,
Hey,
Dan.
I
How
promise.
are you?
Yeah, good. We'll get you that chartered flight next time once we pick up a bit.
Can I get it? Am I allowed into WA yet? I think I am now, right?
I don't know. You're going to have to write to our Premier, Premier Putin. Premier McGowan. Now, Richo, I want to start with a little bit of pre-context for our listeners and you, Dan. I haven't told you this. So when I was a kid, all of my footy as a sort of a 4, 5, 6-year-old was played with two girls across the road who now live in Western Australia. This is back in Geelong.
Okay.
They were avid Richmond Tigers supporters. So there was a period in my life, a Geelong boy grown up in Geelong, who all I used to be when I was playing on the front yard, kicking goals, Matty Richardson.
Yeah, good. All right.
So Richo was my guy, and I was even close enough to becoming a Richmond fan. I went to a game at the MCG, Geelong v Richmond. I bought and wore a Richmond scarf. I was watching guys like Matty Knights, Wayne Campbell, the Gale brothers, Duncan Callaway. Richmond was my team. So to have you here, Richo, I'm bloody pumped. You're my childhood dream.
Oh, Scully. Well, that's something I didn't know, mate. Thanks for sharing that. The most surprising part of that story is that you're actually kicking goals when you're pretending to meet me on the front lawn. Normally, Nat Fyfe told a similar story when he was a kid and he was a Richmond supporter, and he reckoned he kept hitting the tree, which was the point post. That sounded a little bit more familiar to me, but I didn't know that, mate, that you followed the Tigers for a brief period.
I did. If I was missing them, I must have been modelling my game off you. You were prone to a few misses through your career.
That's what I'm saying. I'm surprised you were kicking goals.
Well,
if you were mimicking what I was doing.
Now, all jokes aside, you are the 12th 12th highest goal scorer in the history of our great game. So, look, you had some famous misses, but when it's all said and done, you kicked a few goals in your time, kicked 800 goals exactly throughout your career. Now, before we get to that, I want to do footy. I want to do Matt Richardson, the footy player, Matt Richardson, the media personality, but we ask every guest we ever have on BackChat the same question, and it's usually the first question. Look, we all know what you've done in the footy field. You're a great footy player. Congratulations. But
we've all been there. Who hasn't?
Who hasn't done that? I want to know, outside of football, what's your greatest ever sporting achievement? You can't bring us to the footy field. You must have done different sports growing up. We've had some very good achievements from our sporting guests.
It's going to be hard to top them.
You want to give him some examples?
We've Andrew Bogut, poker player. I don't even know the guy.
Phil Hellmuth.
Phil Hellmuth.
So Andrew Bogut beat Phil Hellmuth in a game. But we had Tom Hawkins was a under 16 high jump champion. Myself, I was an under 9s hurdling champion. Dan Venables, he won the 80-metre hurdles as well. Have you got anything in that realm for us?
Oh, look, nothing substantial, but I was a good cross-country runner.
Yes.
I did win all of the cross-country running at high school, and then we went to Inter High, it was called. So you went and raced against the other high schools on the northwest coast of Tassie. And, that was my strong point. I guess that's something I rated pretty highly. I love basketball. Everyone's made a state team, though, and particularly in Tassie, everyone makes a state team down there. But I'll go with the cross-country, Scully. I'll go with the cross-country champion. I'm happy with that one.
Everyone's made a state team, haven't they, Dan?
Look, I've won men's C grade on a Monday night at Loftus Rec Centre. I'm a champion there, but I've never made the state team.
Every time I say I made a Tasmanian state basketball team, people sort of scoff at it because they think it's not as easy as everyone thinks to make a state team.
You're born into it, aren't you?
Yeah, that's what everyone thinks.
So
I'll go with the cross-country running, Scully. I love my running.
No, that's very good. I'll take cross-country. So where did footy start for Matt Richardson? You're a Tasmanian. You were kicking the footy like me in the front yard in Tassie?
Yeah, we didn't probably have the options that a lot of kids have now. There's so many options for kids in primary school now and the things they want to do. But yeah, growing up in Tassie, it was cricket in summer, footy in winter, a bit of basketball in between. And look, my dad played at Richmond in the 60s, and he was involved in the local footy club, East Devonport, which was, a good torpy from our front yard. So I was always around the footy clubs. So, just started there in the juniors and went right through. And it was always my number one sport, although I did love basketball for a time there, but I was always going to end up being a footballer, I think.
What are some of the memories of playing in Tasmania? I'm assuming the 8 a.m. starts for a junior footy player down there, double jumpers, the warm water in the plugs as you come back in to get the hands going again.
Yeah, exactly, mate. It was cold down there at times. There's no doubt about that. I remember a ground in Hobart, KG5 Oval, playing under 19s down there. And Devonport's about a 4-hour bus ride because you'd stop halfway and get something to eat. And you'd leave Devonport at 4:30 in the morning, get down to Hobart at 8:30. The snow on Mount Wellington, the wind blowing off the top of Mount Wellington, and this ground KG5 had the cricket pitch in the middle. So when it got muddy, basically there were big divots out of the ground, right, where people would put their knees in or, running across. Now, we walked out this particular morning and all the divots basically had frozen water in them. That's how cold it was at KG5 Oval. So it was a different experience to what people in WA would grow up with. Scully, you would have had some cold ones in Geelong, but I reckon that would have been the coldest morning at the footy. It was just about snowing there.
That's hectic. Snow and ice. You would have been sliding around with the studs. Can I just bring you back to basketball for a sec? Because I know NBL's finally got a Tassie team. And with your basketball roots, what's your thoughts on the jack jumpers? Is that like from someone over here in WA? I've got no idea what a jack jumper is, but you as a Tassie boy, is that like, are you proud of that?
Proud of the NBL team or proud of the name?
The name.
Look, I'm getting used to it. I must admit, when I first heard it, I don't really know what a jack jumper is, to be honest. But they went through the process and that's what they've come up with. But what I do know is that the public's loving it down there. It's not the first time we've had an NBL team. There was a team from Launceston called Casino City. Look it up, in the early 80s. Right. Casino City, which was Launceston. It was when the Launceston Country Club Casino was first built. I think they only lasted 2 or 3 years. But I think they at least made an NBL final. So they may not have won it, but they definitely made the finals. Good name. Then we had the Tassie Devils with Steve Carfino down in Hobart. So it's actually the third carnation of an NBL team, and I think this one's going to last.
Talking about Tasmanian teams, I mean, maybe we should call Tasmania the Vegas of Australia. That's what they call
Tas Vegas.
Tas Vegas, very good.
How many people would have guessed there was a team out of Tassie called Casino City?
That's a trivia question. How good
it is.
I mean, it's topical. Can Tasmania maintain an AFL team? Do you think can they do it? Is it feasible?
They should have one. Yeah, they should have one, Scully. No doubt about that. I mean, if you look at the great players in the history of this game, the names that roll off the tongue from Tassie: Ian Stewart, Royce Hart, Darryl Baldock, Peter Hudson. Then you got the Rewalts now, Michael Roach. There's been so many great players out of Tasmania. It's a grassroots footy area. It's the heartland of AFL Aussie rules footy. So they should have a team. If you want a national competition, Tassie's got to have a team. Everyone always argues about the economics and can they support a team? Well, I think the government would make sure of that. So, look, I think in the next 5-6 years, it seriously is on the table now with the AFL Commission, and I think they should have one, yeah.
Is there enough depth in the competition to sustain an extra team, or is it the case of someone merging down there?
No, I think it'll have to be a new team. I don't think Tasmania will cop a merged team down there anymore. I think the public want their own team. So if that was the case, it'd be a new licence. Then I guess you got the talk then, is there enough talent to spread through another franchise or another AFL team? Probably not at the moment. I think it's probably getting a little bit thin as it is. So that'll be the big question. But just the pure question of do they deserve a team? Yes, they do, definitely.
And also, like they get a big crowd over when I think it's the North Melbourne and Hawthorn head down there. So you'd have enough local support and people. It's not like it's just people following other teams that would get around to games.
No, I mean, everyone in Tassie does barrack for a team. There's no doubt about that. But look, I think when they get their own team, if they don't switch over, they'll at least, support the Tassie team as well. And I think eventually, whatever AFL team they did follow, whether it be Carlton or the Eagles or the Crows or whoever it is, I think they would actually eventually fall into the wayside and they'd support their own team for sure.
Would you support the Casino City name again?
Well, I did. I remember as a kid driving down to the Launceston Velodrome and watching Casino City play. So, yes, I would support them.
There we go. They've heard it here first. Matt Richardson says the team out of Tasmania should be called the Casino City. Richo, you kicked...
Look them up, guys. I really want you to look that team up.
Oh, don't worry. I will be. Charlie, there you go on that, please. Now, Richo, you kicked 800 goals exactly over 282 games. You played as a key forward for pretty much all of that, other than when you decided to have a run up on the wing and almost win the Brownlow. But How did the key forward position change in your time of the game? Because when you were playing, it certainly changed from when you started to when it finished.
Oh, absolutely, it did. Look, there was no doubt. Back when I first started, it was pretty much you stayed out on the ground for 100% of the time. All players, not just the forward line. You know, you had midfielders that stayed out there for most of the game as well. There were only about 20 interchanges when I first started, so it really was a war of endurance and attrition, I guess, Scoey. And you played on someone for the whole game. And when I first started, there was some great full backs around and centre half backs, and basically you lined up on them at the start of the game, and you pretty much knew you were going to be standing side by side at the end of the game, and it was just going to be who could play the better footy, who was probably fitter, who could run more, you know, who was strongest. So it really did evolve. It was a one-on-one game. You know, if you got your opponent one-on-one in the goal square, you could have a fair one-on-one battle without the third man coming in. There certainly was no zoning or no zone defence. So, look, that evolved greatly. I remember the first time I played against any sort of zone defence was at the MCG, and it was when Clarkson first brought it in. I reckon it was around 2007, I reckon, Scoey, around that time. I remember standing inside the 50 and looking around, and there were Hawthorn defenders spaced out around me, but no one playing on me. And I thought, how good's this? You know, I've got no one standing on me. And then every time I went for the ball, they just all swamped on me. And that was sort of when it started changing to this more, you know, team defence and helping each other out. So, it certainly did evolve over that 16 or 17 years. And I've got no doubt now, look, it may appear that players, it looks a little bit easier at times if you're standing there and there's no one on you, but it's a lot harder, I think, to get marks inside 50 and get shots on goal. So I think that's why we're not seeing, you know, the big bags of goals anymore.
Speaking of the one-on-one battles, who was the hardest defender that you ever came up against? Who was the guy that you were just sort of dreading every time you had to go out there?
I want to know who the bunny is too. I want to know
and also your bunny.
I don't like doing that, mentioning bunnies, but there were some good ones. I mean, my first opponent was Danny Frawley, but then you had Stephen Silvani and Mick Martin. You know, Alistair Lynch was playing fullback back at the time against the Eagles. You know, you had, if you were playing centre half forward, you had Jacko. If you went down to full back, you had Ashley McIntosh, who I think was one of the most underrated. Well, he's probably not underrated within the Eagles and in Western Australia, but probably over here in Melbourne. He doesn't get mentioned a lot as far as the great defenders go. He was great. Ashley's really quick and really strong. Andrew Dunkley from the Sydney Swans, and then, you know, you went up to Brisbane and they had Lepage and Mal Michael and guys like this. So many good fullbacks across the competition.
Richo.
And I was lucky enough to play on them.
Richo, I know you're a nice guy. You're a humble man.
All right.
And I am too, but let's be honest. You had someone who used to kick a lot of goals on it, and we want his name. Just give us his last name or his first name. I don't know.
Or both.
Look, I'll give you one story. Against Essendon.
Thank you.
When was it? It was late sort of 2000s, maybe 2006, 7. I walked out at the start of the game, and I'm expecting Dustin Fletcher to come play on me, or Sean Wellman.
Best defenders.
And yeah, great defenders, very, very good defenders. And with all due respect, Kepler Bradley stood next to me.
Kepler.
And I hadn't
Freo
seen
legend.
Kepler before, and he hadn't played on me. So at quarter time, I had 4 goals. And I remember going to the huddle and I'm thinking, well, that's probably going to be the end of Kepler. I think Sheeds will probably move Fletcher over now, or Welly. Anyway, I got to half-time and I had 6 goals, and I thought that's the end. At half-time, I'm starting to think Fletcher again. I walk out and Kepler was still there, so we get to three-quarter time and I had 8 goals, and I'm thinking this surely can't go on for the last quarter. Anyway, it did, so I ended up with 9, but Sheets left him there the whole game. So,
Poor guy. What a stitch-up.
Brutal.
Yeah.
So I don't know what was going on there, but I sent Sheeds a Christmas card at the end of that year.
All the
No, I didn't. I don't really think I ever had a bunny.
Kepler Bradley.
I guess if you beat someone pretty convincingly, they're probably not going to play on you again the next time you come around. So
True.
Yeah, I don't really have one that I played on consistently.
all of those big backmen that you were talking about were really like real men, you know. They were like, when you look back at the footage, they were like, you know, the dads, you know, that just like the strong, and, you know, they didn't look like these sort of elite footballers, but they would have built like bricks.
They were.
Speaking of sort of backs that maybe weren't men, do you have any memories of playing on Scoey and maybe the times that you faced off?
We did have a couple of tussles, me and Scully.
We played once.
I was getting,
Apparently we played once. I had to look back on this.
Was that it?
Yep. Apparently we played once. Round 20, 2007.
Was that at Subi or at the G?
Apparently West Coast won, so it probably says it was at Subi because we don't win at the G very often.
Look, I do remember playing on you. It's hard to remember a real specific moment, and the reason being we only played on each other once. But I'll tell you who I had a lot of trouble with was Darren Glass from the Eagles.
Yes.
How good was he?
He taught me everything I know, basically. I don't say that often, but pretty much everything to do with positioning and early body work, he was, and you can tell the listeners, Richo, he was the best in the business at that. His early work to get you in a position where you just couldn't do anything. Yeah,
I don't know, he just had little... He wasn't
tricks.
holding you, but he just had little subtleties that you thought you were going to get away from him and you just couldn't do it. And I think Darren Gasper, who played at Richmond, did the same thing. Gas didn't look quick, but no one ever got away from him. And he just had this little thing where he put two fingers just on their hip just before they led, and he just pulled back on their hip just subtly, but it just threw everything out. And that's what Glassy had. He was some sort of martial arts expert, wasn't he, Scully?
That is that's so interesting to hear from an opposition player who had never spoken to Darren Glass outside of footy. Darren Glass's number one thing he taught me was the hip grab. So you get 2 or 3 fingers right on that hip bone and you pull it. And as a forward, you lose your balance and power. And it's not a hold, but you completely misstep. And it's like you forget how to run for a couple of steps and then you're right on them again.
And that's where you get that break. That's the initial break that you needed as a forward on the lead. And I couldn't get that on Glassy. He was always on me. And as I said, Darren Gasper did the same thing for us at Richmond. He was an All-Australian 2 years in a row. And you looked at Gass at training and you just thought, how's he keep up with these guys? But he did it every week. And it was because of those subtleties. I remember I was having a wrestle with Glassy in the goal square one day at Subiaco, and he had me in some sort of judo hold, and I was in massive trouble. And I remember looking down the ground, and my teammate Kane Pettifer was about 30 metres away, and I sort of was trying to yell out and say, Pets, get down here, help me out, I'm in massive trouble here. So Pets come steaming down towards me, and I thought, he's going to just get Glassy off me and I can regain my composure. What do you reckon Pets did?
Nothing.
He kneed me straight in the temple and knocked me out.
No.
I yelled out for him to come down and help me get out of this wrestle with Glassy, and he knees me in the temple and knocks me out.
Maybe deep down he did help you, Richo. You didn't have to put up with that much longer, did you?
No, I didn't. I probably needed to get off the ground that day. No, I'm glad you mentioned that, Scully. He was a master, Glassy.
Speaking of Glassy, he was a glove wearer, wasn't he?
No.
Didn't he wear a glove in the back?
No, that was Lynchy.
What are you saying about
in the back
glove
line?
wearers?
Well, I want to ask you about the glove wearing because you're obviously pro glove wearer.
Well, it happened for a reason.
Yeah, but you kept it longer than you...
I was against it. I was really against it because a marking player I took, I really looked up to was Stephen Kernahan. And I remember Sticks mentioning one day about, players wearing gloves and you shouldn't do it. And he was one of the great marks of all time, Sticks. So I thought, I'm never going to wear a glove. If Sticks isn't going to wear a glove, I'm not. But then I broke my wrist one day down at Geelong. And I lost a lot of strength in my arm having the operation on my wrist. I was out for 3 or 4 weeks and I came back and I was just really weak in the hands, particularly the right arm where I'd had the operation. I just couldn't mark the ball for the first 2 or 3 games back. I just lost strength in my hand and I thought I've got to just put a glove on for a few weeks here till I get things back in order. Anyway, I started taking a few marks the next few weeks and then it became superstitious. So I wore it for the rest of my career. It was only the last 3 or 4 years, but I did get used to it at that point.
The glove. Travis Cloak put one on one day and he took 27 contested marks in one game and they banned it for everyone forever.
Have you feel those wide receiver gloves that they wear in the NFL? I mean, that is performance enhancing.
Yes.
It's basically it's almost like a glue on the surface, isn't it? And you see why these guys take the one-handers they do in the NFL. There's no way known you could have those in the AFL.
No, and you couldn't kick. So those wide receiving, you can't actually get the ball out of your hands. It comes into it pretty easily. You can't get it out, so you can't handball or... I couldn't handball very well anyway, but I certainly didn't wear a glove when I was playing. Richo, talking about skills in the AFL, goal kicking, something that you knew a little bit about. As I said earlier, you did have some famous misses from quite close, but that's okay. We all make mistakes. Goal kicking... in general, it hasn't improved as a skill over the journey. Why do you think that is? Because it is a closed skill. There is external issues such as fatigue or crowd noise or scoreboard, but it's a closed skill. Why do you think that hasn't improved?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Look, it's basically because most of it's up in your head, I think.
Yep.
I mean, as you said, you've got crowd noise, you've got obviously the opposition, you've got the situation of the game, the scoreboard pressure that can come down on you. But it's all in your head, and I think it's the guys that can block out that noise in their head that are the good goal kickers. I think you can alleviate that by having a really strong routine. And probably wasn't until my last 5 years where I really did. Now, whether I had a shank or I had a bad ball drop, I did have the same routine as far as steps and momentum into the footy went. But it took me a long time to find that and become really comfortable with it. And I think I did become more consistent once I developed that strong routine. I had a high ball drop and I could never get that right over my career. So that meant if the wind was there or there were other factors that could affect me. But at least I knew I was doing the same amount of steps. I had the same momentum through the ball, the same pace through it. But yeah, I just think a lot of guys let it get to them mentally when they're having a shot at goal. They get the yips. It's like basketball, the shooting, the free throws, and it's like you get the yips putting. It's mostly in your head, I think, and that's probably why it's never going to get better unless players can learn to master the mind, and that seems like it's pretty hard to do.
I'm a true backman, and on this podcast I've said multiple times, especially in front of your Kennedys, your Darlings, those sort of players, that goal kicking is all luck, Richo. I've come to the conclusion that you blokes, the amount that you forwards practice and you kick on goal and you've got your routine and you do this and that, I mean, it's just luck if it goes in or not. That's as much of a conclusion as I can make, because everyone's trying to kick it through the big sticks. But
exactly. I mean, I and they say practice, and I'd go out with the bag of balls on my day off and, have my 50 or 60 shots a goal. And if I didn't go at 80% every single training session, for most of my career, then I'll go, hey, you just do, because you haven't got the pressure of the scoreboard, you haven't got the crowd, you haven't got, the opposition players out there. So for me, it was purely my head when I missed it. Occasionally it might have been something else, the conditions, if it was windy or wet, but normally it was me thinking negatively in my mind, and generally, that would happen. And I just needed to kick my first one, and then I felt a lot better most of the time.
You're a prolific goal kicker, so the behinds are just more amplified. If you'd only kicked 20 goals in your career, when you hit a post in the goal square, it wouldn't matter. But it's just because you kick. So I'm trying to make light, positive of the situation. That's why your bad misses look so bad, because you're such a good goal kicker.
Well, I guess if you're having more shots at goal, you've got more chances to miss, haven't you?
Yeah.
So, and that, I think Michael Jordan said something along those lines.
Yep.
Although the one thing I did notice, if you go down to, I don't know if you've heard, I've said this many times over the years, and I'm just going to keep saying it because I believe it. If you go down to your local primary school and they've got the goalposts up, right, you look how short they are, right?
Yes.
You go back, they are not intimidating at all. You go back, you kick 9 out of 10 goals at the local primary school from 30 metres out straight in front. You go to an AFL ground, you look how tall those goalposts are. And they got taller after Anthony Rocker had that controversial decision in the 2002, I think, grand final.
Yes.
Remember that decision?
Yes.
The very next year, I don't know how much taller the AFL made the goalposts, but substantially taller. And who played the first game the next year? We did, Richmond and Collingwood. I was the first guinea pig full forward to have these new high goalposts. I remember out there in the warm-up that day, I'm looking at them going, these things look closer together. Like, the higher they go up, you think about it, the closer they get.
Physics.
It's like looking down a train line. Scully, you look straight down the train line, it's like they get closer together the further away. That was like these goalposts. That was my theory, that the further they go up, the closer together they get, and I got intimidated by them.
You were scared by the posts. You were scared by the goalposts.
That's fine.
I was intimidated by them.
You were also involved in a game with some quite noteworthy behinds.
Tactics.
Yeah, 2008 Essendon game. Joel Bowden.
Yeah.
Brushing those behinds. I recall this because I watched the video today again, and I'm like, oh yeah, that actually happened. Do you remember after the game, was that talked about at all? Because it was obviously sort of controversial at the time. Then some rule changes came in. Do you remember much of that game and that happening?
I do remember it happening, and it didn't surprise me with Joel. That was the sort of guy he was. He was a bit of a lateral thinker at times, and that was the sort of thing that he could come up with. And he thought through it pretty well, didn't he? He exploited a rule. He exploited the rule as it was at the time, and fair enough. I don't think you'd want to see that happen again, but the rule was there to be exploited at the time. We needed to win the game, and he did it. But I do remember after that game, it was a massive talking point on all of the footy shows and the radio talkback shows on Monday and during the week. So it's not a great look for the game, and I am glad they've changed that rule now.
He liked getting a kick too, Joel Bowden, if I remember correctly. I used to play Dream Team back in the day, still do.
He was a good Dream Team.
Patrick and Joel used to just kick it back and back. It was like kick to kick down the back line.
B1 and B2.
It was Patrick was Joel's brother, so he used to just kick it back and forth between.
Pad some stats.
How many points did he rush that day? Was it 3 or 4?
It was 2 in a row, 2 in like 20 seconds or something.
Yeah,
but it was about 35 seconds on the clock, and Essendon were peppering.
I mean,
so they'd kicked a point and then he rushed 2 more.
Hawthorn did it in a grand final, so it's not just Joel's fault.
No, not singling him out.
Richo, look, you were prone a little bit as well, and I don't mean to be negative, but you're prone to a few meltdowns on the field. I've seen a bit of footage back in the day. I don't remember them particularly, but saw some meltdowns at opposition players, at the umpires, probably at your coaches, probably even your own teammates and fans at some stages. Yeah. Did you suffer from white line fever a little bit? Because you seem like a good bloke.
I did, but I was. I was a peanut at times. I must admit that. I did, I think, but I just came from competitiveness and wanting to do well. A lot of the time, a lot of my frustration at times was at myself. You know, if I didn't think I was playing as good as I wanted to, or I did something, that let the team down, or I let myself down. So. But then a lot of the time it was at the umpires, and of course occasionally it was at teammates, and it wasn't good enough. I actually ended up. It wasn't until I was about 29 till I actually went and did this leadership course, a one-on-one course, and just spoke about a lot of different things with this mentor of mine, and he said to me, "What do you want to be remembered at the end of your career?" And it was at a time where I was sort of copping a bit in the media for probably how I was carrying on the ground, and I was probably on the verge of sort of almost probably leaving Richmond, and not on my own accord, but they were probably starting to think about moving me on. So I went and said to this guy, I said, "Look, I just want to change the perception of me by the end of my career." And I think after that, I ended up channeling that emotion into a more positive sort of way out on the ground, and I played more consistent footy off the back of it. But I don't know why it took me so long, probably 10 or 11 years, but it was just frustration at times. It didn't look good, and I'm not proud of a lot of it looking back at it now.
That's an interesting word you use, perception, Richo, and to hear it from one of the greats of the game. Was that something you battled with throughout your career? I mean, you said that Richmond's looking to get rid of you at stages because of a perceived thought of the way you were.
Yeah, look, it probably could be the wrong word. I mean, it wasn't a perception; it was a reality a lot of the time. But I did want to change the idea that I thought people thought I was a bit of a sook and probably a little bit of an underachiever at times. So I think I did that. I think I was respected by the end of my career, and I've been able to stay involved in the game. So I think I was able to do that. But I think maligned's a bit of a word. I guess I did feel a bit maligned at times. I mean, you're playing in a team that, a lot of people probably look at Richmond through my time, and I think they think we finish near the bottom every year, which we didn't do. We were a competitive team a lot of the time. 11, 12 wins now is quite a competitive season. And we did that 6 or 7 years, and it was just frustrating. We were always on the edge of the finals. And I think that added to a lot of frustrations as well.
Talking about sort of the way that you perhaps acted a bit on the field, did you have anyone in, like, if you did have like a bit of a blowout or something like that, would there be anyone like sort of pulling you in and say, "Hey mate," or was it sort of like just get out of your way? Did you have people that were sort of trying to help out with that at the time at the club?
Yeah, there was always someone there. I remember when Leon Cameron came across from the Western Bulldogs. He was a great on-field leader, a very sort of level-headed guy, Leon, and what he's gone on to do in coaching now. I just never understand the criticism of Leon. I think he's played in finals 5 of the last 6 years, the only coach to do that. But he was like a coach on the ground, and Leon was a calming influence on me when he came to the club. I really respected him. I'll give you a story which probably didn't work out for the best. I remember Terry Wallace at one stage decided to get someone down to help me with my body language, and I thought, this is a good idea. And I got to the club one day and he said, "Look, Rich, I've got, this particular gentleman here talk to you about your body language. And I couldn't wait to see who it was. And so I went out and I said, where is he? He said, he's just sitting down the race there, at Punt Road Oval. So I walked down the race and I looked around the ground and, I looked out on the ground, I looked up in the grandstand. I couldn't see anyone. There was only one person sitting on the race, and it was Brian Taylor, right? The great BT, Brian Taylor, who had played at Richmond in the early 80s and then went on to Collingwood, obviously. And we know Brian, carried on a bit on the ground as well.
Had a very short fuse.
He'd had a short fuse, Bristol. He still does. And I looked at BT. I said, what are you doing here, BT? And he said, I'm your body language coach, Richo. And we just both burst into tears. We said, Terry can't be serious here, surely, can he? So that was a short-lived body language coach, the great Brian Taylor. We actually did go in and watch my DVD from the weekend, and I'd had a few blow-ups in that game, and we sort of watched it, and then we looked at each other and we said, I don't think this is going to work.
maybe Terry's thinking was, why not get someone who knows how to blow up in the field? And
that's what it was
not to do.
Yeah,
that's what it was, Scully. But I was a Richmond supporter as a kid, and I watched Brian play in the early 80s, and I reckon I actually was sort of half mimicking him as a junior, and then I took it into my seat. He was probably the one to blame for it, to be honest.
I can just imagine a couple of full forwards sitting in a room together watching each other blow up going, nah, it's the midfielder's fault. It's nothing to do with us anyway. Let's get going on and kick some more goals.
It's never our fault.
Now, Richo, I'll tell you a bit more of a serious note with grand finals. So you spoke about the success Richmond, did or didn't have at your time at the club. You played in 2 preliminary finals, 95, 2001. Do you look back on your career and wish you had an opportunity to compete for a premiership? Because it didn't seem like you had that opportunity.
No, you're right, Scully. Look, in 1995, I actually got injured in round 9, and I was a spectator at that game, and I remember us losing to Geelong out at Waverley. We got pumped, actually, and I remember driving out of that game. I knew I was coming back the next year. I was only 20 years of age at the time, and I just thought, it doesn't matter. We'll play in one next year. And we didn't play in another final series until 2001, the only final series I played in. So, yeah, hugely disappointing when you look back. And that's what I meant about being frustrated. I think we finished 9th something like 6 times in my career. And, people would call us ninthman, and it did become a frustration. So, yeah, look, we just never were quite there. 2001 was a great year. We ended up playing Brisbane in a prelim final up at the Gabba. And look what they went on to achieve. They won that grand final that year and then won the next 2 and played off again in 2004. So they were a great team. That was as close as we got. The next year we topped up our list a little bit. We went out and got some older players from other clubs, and it just didn't work again the next year. And I never had another opportunity. So there's no doubt. Look, Scully, you play football to play in a premiership, and it is something that I look back on, and I'm disappointed that I didn't get that opportunity.
Did the experience that you were able to have in 2017, somewhat not replicated, obviously, but give you a great taste of the excitement and passion that was involved in a Richmond side that won their first premiership in 37 years, and you presented the cup? It must have been pretty amazing to be a part of.
Yeah, it was. Look, nothing will ever. Look, I don't know what it's like to win one, but I mean, it was pretty good being a supporter and sort of half being involved a little bit on the day. It was incredible. I mean, just about, apart from having the kids and the family stuff, I mean, I can't remember a better experience being involved in a sporting team. And I do work at the club still, so I guess you felt a tiny bit of involvement, but to be out on the ground and to be able to be out there watching the players get the medals and giving the cup over and all of that, it was just an incredible day. And I'm as mad a Richmond supporter as you get. If you take away the career, I'm a Richmond Nuffy tragic supporter. So, it was a special day. And to be honest, I never thought it would happen. I think in the back of my mind, I just never thought Richmond would win another one. I never even imagined it, really.
You finished up your career probably just before social media really took hold of everyone's lives, and it became just something that everyone was constantly on and everyone had an opinion on. Was there anything that you look back at that you thought, oh man, we never would have got away with that today because of, the way that social media works? Anything sort of the way that, you guys even used to hang around at the club or at the footy club, or even just the way that players reacted to certain things that, now would just be so amplified on social media?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm really glad that I played when I did. Look, it was a transitional stage from semi-professional right through to fully professional sport where we were getting paid really well. But as you said, we didn't have social media. And look, I guess now I feel like you probably can't enjoy yourself as much as we probably were able to. We could play and we trained hard. We trained as hard as what the players do now. We did a lot of work. And we went out there on game day and you left it all out there. But you could actually go out after the game and pretty much have a beer and have a bit of a good time with your friends. I mean, you're young people. Young people love doing that. And we could do that. I don't feel like I missed out on any of that stuff socially. I mean, I had a good social life and then we trained hard during the week. And I've got no doubt now, if you did that now, people with phones, filming you and, maybe you were out a bit too late and someone films you and, that probably does end up on Twitter or Instagram or something now and you probably get in strife. The media picks it up. So I don't envy the players now. Look, they've got a good life and they earn a lot of money and you're a professional athlete, but, the scrutiny is there and, they're young people as well and young people like to hang out with their friends occasionally. So, yeah, I feel like it is a different time now with social media.
When you were younger, you were getting on Wheel of Fortune. How did that happen?
Wheel of Fortune? What?
Oh, mate.
Young people these days are out at clubs, after a game and, trying not to get seen on a phone. You were just on Wheel of Fortune.
You know what? That was the year I did my knee. And I remember my manager said, what are we going to do? And I said, whatever you can get me, I wanted to see if I could earn a few extra bucks. I was out injured and I wasn't on good money back then. It wasn't great coin. I was still working in a pub, actually, in Fitzroy, pouring beers a couple of days a week.
Wow.
So the Rose Hotel, I did, yeah. I poured beers there. So I said, I'll see if you can get me a bit extra work. I won't be playing for the rest of the year. And next thing you know, I'm on Wheel of Fortune. They did the celebrity edition of Wheel of Fortune. Jeez, I was shit house too.
Yeah, you got a gnarly pony. Charlie's just putting up some video for us as well.
You know what? I've gone with the P for Peter at one stage. And then when you got to the end and, it was there to be solved, there was no more letters to be picked. And baby John Burgess goes, now, Richo, do you know what this phrase is? And I've gone, no idea. And it was blatantly obvious too.
Oh, that's very
great.
good.
So
that's good by you, Dan.
While you were trying to make some extra money, did you do, because like nowadays, footy players jump on social media, they post a photo of themselves at some, hotel and they get paid $1,000 or whatever for a picture. Were you doing TV ads and stuff like for local TV when you were trying to get some extra coin?
No TV ads, I don't think, but we did some pretty embarrassing promotional type things. Ricky Nixon had a management agency here in Melbourne. He had a thing called Club 10, and he had all of the big, the gun players signed up to it. And I don't know how I was included in this lot, but Wayne Carey and Dunstall and Lockett and Koutafidis and Wanganeen and Modra, all of the big names at the time, and it was called Club 10. And Ricky, got a lot of deals signed up with this group of guys, and we did a Mitre 10 ad. We did a Mitre 10 ad.
I have to find it.
You'll probably be able to find it on YouTube, and it's very, very, very funny to watch.
I love seeing some of your work back in the day, Richo, because as you said, Dan, it's social media and coverage wasn't a thing. Like you'd be on Channel 7, but only people in Melbourne would see it. It wouldn't even be national. Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely changed a long way since then. I mean, it's probably a good little segue to life in the media for you, Richo. You've been doing a lot of work there since your career finished. Was it something that you worked on during your career, or was it something you fell into afterwards? How did that process go?
Fell into it a little bit, Scully. I mean, I did the footy show spasmodically over the years, I guess, from probably about 1995, 96, probably up until 2005, 2006. I might have done that 3 or 4 times a year. And I was petrified doing the footy show. I remember, they'd ring you up on the Tuesday, the producer, Ralphie Horowitz, and he'd say, can you come on Thursday night? And if we weren't playing Friday night, you'd go on. You wouldn't go on if you were playing Friday night. You'd go, if you were Saturday or Sunday, you'd go on. So all I remember is after saying yes to doing the footy show, it just consumed my mind thinking about going onto the footy show because it was a big deal. I mean, the ratings were enormous.
Yes.
So, one of the most watched shows in Australia at that time.
There was nothing else on. There was no other shows. It was just the footy show. Show.
Exactly. And Sam Newman was just a huge celebrity, you know, and he was intimidating. You know, he was a great talent at what he did. Obviously, one of the best ever as far as footballers going into the media. So, and it was all about Sam, obviously the show, and we were basically just three sidekicks sitting over there, you know, on the three chairs, and every time you said something, Sam would take the mickey out of you sometimes, and then you'd go back into your shell. So, look, it was great fun, and I really enjoyed it, but it was daunting. So I had a little bit of experience there. Again, I fell into it a bit because I got injured in my last year. In 2009, I snapped my hammy tendon in round 5, and I had surgery, and it was clear I wasn't going to play again that year, probably ever. So, again, I said to my manager, gee, I reckon I'm going to be looking for work next year. And he said, well, let's see if we can get you a little bit of media work. And I said, yeah, let's do it. So I actually did a few games on 3RW, like as a guest special comments, I guess. A lot of the players do it now. Like we have Nick Nat and guys like that on Channel 7 occasionally doing their special comments. So I did that on AW. And I did a show on Channel 10, which was on, I think it was called Channel 1 back then, one of their digital channels. It was called 1 Week at a Time with Stephen Quartermain and Robert Walls. And it was like an on-the-couch type show.
Yes.
And I did that, I think, every second or third week for the rest of the season. I wasn't very good at it, but it was a good experience, and I learned pretty quickly how TV sort of works and the ins and outs of it. And I guess by the end of the year, I just hoped that I'd get offered some jobs, and my manager helped me out a lot there. And I got a job with Channel 7 and 3RW, and about to do my 13th season this year, so it's gone quickly.
It's matching your AFL career. I mean, luckily they didn't pitch, I don't know, host of Wheel of Fortune or permanent guest of Wheel of Fortune.
I did sail the century as well.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's a bucket list. I used to watch that every night.
Fast money was my go. Don't worry about that.
You'd be still trying to press the buzzer now, I reckon, Richo. Now, how does that perspective change for you then as a player?
Yeah.
You obviously deal with the media, and I'm kind of going through this process now. I'm 2 years removed from the game. I'm doing a lot of media. This and 6PR is the 3AW equivalent. I'm doing some 7 and Fox Footy stuff. How does that switch go between player and then into the media? And now you're 13 years in. You're not a player anymore. You're certainly a media expert and personality. How does that perspective change for you as you go?
Yeah, look, I try to keep a player's perspective on things and just try and remember how hard the game actually is. I mean, you've got to be critical at times, but I really do try and see things as you would as a player a little bit. So I try to remain in that sort of mode as well. Look, I think the biggest key is to be yourself. I think as soon as you start being someone that you're not, I really think people see through that pretty quickly. So if I could give advice to anyone going into the media, if you're not being who you actually are and being yourself, if you're someone that likes to put yourself out there and you're someone that is quite critical and likes to, set a fine line and go that way, then do it. I mean, that's what you're good at. If you're not good at that, don't try and do it because it's not going to work. So I think I just try and be myself. I'm not an overly I guess I'm not out there trying to make too many headlines, but if I believe in something and, that I don't agree with in the game, then I think that I'm prepared to say it, but I'm not going to just get out there and say things for the sake of maybe getting a bit of clickbait on Twitter or saying something on a Wednesday night on Sports Day to get a bit of a soundbite out of. So be yourself. And I think that's the best advice I can give.
When I see a lot of ex-players now in the media, I feel like, and this is just my perspective, but I feel like the go-to is usually to then, once players leave the game, they sort of start to attack players within the game. There are certain media personalities who are ex-footy players who love to just fire at the current players. How do you see that going? Because you're not really one of those guys who's every week got something to say about a current player.
Yeah.
But obviously you would see it happen. How does that make you feel as someone who's played basically as long as you are in the media?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, if that's who you actually are, and if that's what you want to be, then I mean that's what you do, and you go for it. But I mean, that's not my go. That's not what I'm going to do. Look, I think players know when criticism is warranted. I knew when I deserved criticism. So if an ex-player actually brought that up in the media, I was able to handle that because I think I knew within myself. And I think most players would still be the same. I mean, It's just that fine line of maybe pushing it too far. If you're an ex-player and you go a little bit too hard, it probably can seem a little bit unfair at times. But I think most players know when a little bit of criticism is warranted. It's just how you deliver it at times, I think.
You're an all-Australian squad selector, Richo.
Yeah.
How does that process work? I've been in the game and been close to it. I still don't know. Glenn Jakovic is a colleague of mine at 6PR. What's the process in selecting that? How does it work?
Well, I guess you have 3 meetings throughout the year, and at the first meeting, you'll sit there and you'll go through each club and you'll throw up names on the board, and there might be 2 or 3 players from a club that's sitting on the bottom of the ladder, if that. And a team like Melbourne this year, at that first meeting, they may have had 8 or 9 players or even 10 players up on the board who were having bona fide all-Australian sort of squad type years. So that first meeting, you might have 80 names by the end of it up on the board. The second meeting, you try and trim that down to probably about 60 names. And then that final meeting, you need to get it down to that squad of 40 and then the final 22. So it's a hard process because there's stiff players missing out on the 40 and then there's extremely stiff players not getting into that final 22. It really is hard. When you come down to those last few spots. I reckon that each year there's probably a dozen guys that you just cannot leave out at any cost. And then, there's a lot of debate over the rest. At the end of the day, you can't sit there all day and all night. You've got to get the team out there. And at some point, you have to put a hand up and say, I'm voting. I'm going for player X or someone else might go for player Y. And there's always going to be some criticism of that.
There's been some all-time meme videos made about it, one involving Adolf Hitler, or at least an actor playing Adolf Hitler, that are very enjoyable to watch. Some of the criticism has been about picking an all-Australian team that would actually roll out on the weekend, playing midfielders in a forward pocket or on a forward flank, and non-wingmen on wings, that sort of stuff. Where do you sit with all that? I mean, clearly you're a selector, so does that get talked about?
Look, this is the real talking point. Do you go with just the best 22 bona fide best players of the season, right? Or do you pick the actual best team with every single player in the position they played on the weekend? And that means there's going to be bona fide stars of the game not getting into the 22. So do you just want it to be a showcase of the 22 best players? Or do you want it to be an actual team in the position that they play every week or 80% of the time? That's the big debate on this one. And I think it's never going to end. I think the only way that will ever end is if the AFL comes out and says this is the actual criteria and everyone knows what it is, and you then go and select the team according to that criteria. Until then, there's going to be debate. And you know what? The AFL probably like a bit of debate at the end of the day. The team comes out, everyone in the press talks about it. It means the AFL's being talked about. Everyone's writing articles and posting online, and the game's being talked about. So, yeah, it's an interesting debate.
I saw the 2021 team of players played in their positions, and the person who made it put the forward pocket. It was the player with the most pressure points in the AFL got that position. Yeah. They made selection criteria. The full forward was probably goals. Centre half forward might have been, whatever it was. Yeah. And it was a good team. And you actually couldn't argue your way out of many. There was obviously a couple of guys that you were sort of like,
the midfielders, I guess. So
no, it's actually the forwards. So a good small forward in terms of playing on any given weekend probably won't make that All-Australian team. That's a forward pocket that's he's a role player. He chases, he tackles. He might not kick many goals, but he plays a role, and the best role in the team, which is that pressure play. He's not going to be in the All-Australian team, but it was someone like a Tom Papley or of that ilk, maybe one of the St Kilda small forwards that was actually on top of this thing. I mean, an argument can certainly be made to be doing that sort of team.
Yeah, of course. I agree. And I think there's never not going to be debate on it because there's actually no real clear cut criteria like that, where you've got to select 2 wingmen. They have to have played there for 80% of the time. And look, I guess to do that, you'd almost have to rewrite the whole constitution of it and write that criteria in, and then the selectors then have to follow that criteria. Look, it's a little bit more subjective at the moment, and that's just the way it is, but it creates plenty of debate. But look, I think the wingmen and the forward pockets are the ones at the moment that are the harder ones to pick, Scully, for sure.
I want to talk about another role that you serve, and that's sort of the boundary rider, because you're, I do enjoy your comments there on the boundary. But just quickly before we leave All Australian selection, I'm just thinking logistically, are you like in a room like if there's one player that you're like, this guy has to make the team, but another person doesn't want that? Is it like, does it come down to a vote? Is that how, like, the logistics of it, or is it purely like one person has the final say?
No, not one. No, not one person has the final say. Look, the discussion will go around, and everyone will give their opinion. And look, eventually it'll land on the player that it gets selected. So
does it get hated?
Could go back and forward for quite a long time, though. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, I guess you have to pick it eventually, otherwise you'll just
you could.
I mean, like a jury that never comes back.
You're splitting hairs at the end of the day with these guys and how well they've played during the year, particularly when you get down to that last few positions where you could probably put 5 or 6 guys on the interchange bench, but eventually you just have to select someone.
What's something about the boundary rider role that people wouldn't usually know? I mean, you're out amongst the wolves, really. You're with the most passionate fans, because you're right at the front, the people that are spending sort of the most money. What's some of your experiences of doing that?
Oh, I'll tell you what, that sitting in the boundary at Port Adelaide, like, it can at times there, you've got an earpiece in your ear with the commentary coming through the earpiece, obviously, so I can hear what Brian or Luke Darcy or James Brayshaw and everyone's saying up in the box. But you're right on the boundary line there at the Adelaide Oval. At times you can barely even hear what the commentators are saying, and they're trying to cross down to you and you can't hear them. So yeah, you really need to be concentrating. There's no doubt about that, because it's not great viewing, it's not great TV if they're trying to come down to you and you're not responding. So yeah, it can be hard to hear at times, but I think it's what a position. I mean, I remember might have been my first year at the MCG when remember when Buddy Franklin kicked those 2 running goals against Essendon at the MCG,
Cale Hooker
on the members wing, Cale Hooker chasing him. I'm not a Hawthorn supporter. I love watching Buddy Franklin play, but I remember that night just sitting there on the boundary line, and I did get the hairs standing up on the back of my neck, and I thought, wow, how good's this? I'm sitting a metre away from the ground, and Buddy's running past me, bouncing it, 6'6", 100 kilos, and kicking a goal like that. So I guess it's just just how up close and personal you are down there, the things you hear, and just the bodies, smacking into each other. When I first retired, I thought, one of the first games I did, a couple of guys smashed into each other right in front of me on the boundary line. I was sort of winced. I went, gosh, how tough are these guys? And I thought 12 months ago I was playing that, and I couldn't imagine the fact that I was even playing 12 months ago, how hard and how strong they are and how the velocity when they hit. So, we're very privileged to have the jobs we have.
Have you ever made something up, Richo? I've done a bit of boundary riding, not at the level you have, but it gets crossed down to you and they ask you about Dan Const and the ankle that he's just... give us an update on Dan Const down on the boundary. Have you made much up down there, Richo?
I'll tell you one area I get nervous is when I'm trying to give medical updates. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physio. And we should just steer clear of that and stop trying to make diet. I remember working with Dr. Larkins, Dr. Peter Larkins. He was on our Saturday night coverage for a few years. And at one point in the game, Doc was down on the boundary line, and I diagnosed an injury from the box. And I remember Doc sort of coming up to me after the game and sort of just mentioning that I leave that stuff to him. And I think I have to agree with him.
Oh, that's very good. I want to finish this part of the session off, and we do appreciate your time, Richo. I know you've got kids as well, so hopefully you haven't woken them up.
Well, it actually works well for you guys because they just got to sleep before we started, so all good.
Well done. The fatherhood figure, we love it. Now, I want to ask you, this is an incredibly serious and well, I think relatable topic to a lot of people. Danny Frawley, an ex-coach of yours at Richmond, he passed away in 2019. He was obviously a media cohort member as well, so you would have dealt with Danny post-footy as well. How close were you to Danny? How did you deal with his passing in 2019?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I couldn't process it for a while there when I first heard. I was actually just around the corner my local gym in the sort of about 3:30 in the afternoon, and got a phone call from 3RW and one of the producers there on I think it might have been Tom Elliott's show. I can't remember, but they said, "Do you want to comment on Danny Frawley's passing?" And I said, "What?" I said, "No, I don't. I don't even know if that's a fact. I've had no news." So I said, "No, I don't want to say anything." And I remember sort of hanging up off the phone, and then the phone calls started coming through from, Richmond people, and Brendan Gale actually rang, and some former teammates, and we all sort of couldn't believe it. And it was like he'd been punched in the guts, and we're just all in a bit of shock. And then it hit you the next day that it was actually real, and yeah, I can't believe it still now. Danny was a great guy. We loved him as a coach. He was a real players man. He used to get out there and train with us. He was hard. And we had as I said, we played in a prelim under Danny in 2001. So we were a good team there for a while, and it was because of Danny and how he got us together. We had a good game plan that everyone knew. So he was a good coach. People forget that. And then, after footy, I had a lot to do with him in the media. We did some country tours together with, a lot of other footballers and ex-footballers. And he was just always the life of the party. When Danny walked into a room, the room came alive. Always came alive, and he was always the centre of the attention. He was always making people laugh. So, yeah, it's just hard to take. Obviously, wasn't feeling that way deep inside. That is clear for everyone to see now. But I don't think I ever saw Danny at the footy on a Sunday arvo at the G, because he used to do radio on Sunday, and so did I. And you bump in at halftime in the media room, and you might have a 2-minute encounter with Spud, but you'd always walk away laughing or with tears in your eyes, and he always made you feel good. And that's how I like to remember Spud.
I've seen pretty... sorry, you go.
But I encourage, if you're feeling flat or down, you've got to talk to your friends and let it out and speak to people. Well, I know Spud did do that, but eventually, obviously, it just became a bit too much for him.
I've seen recently, Richo, that you've spoken about brain injury and brain trauma, quite recently in your time at the game as a player, and it's been reasonably well publicised that Danny went through his own mental issues post footy. What about that side of it, the mental side of it, both as a player and now post player? Where do you land on all of that?
Yeah, I am interested in this space because it's important. I think as young, when I was a young player coming through in the AFL, it was just sort of the strong survived, and you weren't encouraged to speak to anyone if you were probably feeling a bit down or you weren't feeling the best. But I think it's the opposite now. I really think we encourage people to speak about their mental health, and if they're not feeling great, to talk about it or to go away and do something for their mental health. And I think, we're really on the right track in that regard. I think the AFL's on the right track with what they're doing to try and protect the head. I mean, at the end of the day, we play a contact sport and there is going to be collisions. But I think they've done everything they can in recent times to try and eliminate that. You can never take it right out of the game, and you play the game knowing that you are a chance at some point to be hit in the head. But I think they've done really well at eliminating, all of the cheap stuff out of the game now. And I think it's a pretty safe game to play now. I think it is compared to 25, 30 years ago.
How do you? Well, you played 25 to 30 years ago. Well, a little bit closer than that. How do you feel personally?
Yeah, look, I did have some big concussions. Ones where you were completely out and wake up in the rooms, and it does worry you when you see some of these ex-players that are having issues with their brain now and their memory and headaches and these types of things, and what's happened in America with the NFL. So I wouldn't say I don't think about it at times and how I'm going to be feeling down the track, but I feel well at the moment. I think you just got to. One of the biggest things I think you just got to keep yourself moving, keep exercising. I think exercise is the most important thing I can do at the moment for my mental health. When I exercise, I feel better in my head as well. So that's something I try and do.
Very good, mate. Appreciate you speaking about that topic too, because I know it can sometimes be hard, but we do appreciate your honesty, mate.
No,
really
no worries
good.
at all.
Now we have come as we segue into, I'm sure Richo knows about this, social media.
We did ask beforehand. Are we doing social media?
One of the great podcasting segments of all time, Richo. Been around for a long time, probably before you were playing internationally.
I love what you've done with that, social media.
I thought you might be a fan of that, Richo. Very good. Social media.
I love it.
Here it is.
I love it.
We get the people to ask the questions to us, Richo, so the people get a voice in this podcast. Let's kick it off with Candace. She's a big fan. Candace Spag.
Okay. What was your thoughts on Cousins joining the Tigers, and how did the players inside the club feel about it? Did the players have a say on it?
Yeah, we did. Obviously, it was discussed with the players initially, and I remember walking out of that meeting and thinking, geez, can I play with Ben Cousins? I thought, yeah, how good's this? And I think it was really good for Ben. He came across to Melbourne. He got along well with all the players. He trained hard. He was here for 2 years. I only played in his first year. I only played half a game with him in round 1 that year. He did his hammy at half time, and then I did my hammy in round 5 or 6, and he came back the next week, and I never played again for the year. So I only played half a game with Ben. But, yeah, good guy, and I think he was a good example for guys like Cochin and Martin. If you speak to them, they speak highly of him and some of the stuff he passed down on how to play in the midfield. And I think at the time it was really good for Ben. I think it helped him at the time, sort of get his life back on track for a period there. And I hear he's going quite well at the moment, and I really hope that continues for him.
That's good. Love that. Philip_White _. This is the second one.
The second one. Okay. Is it true a rookie player who was meant to be house sitting your home had a massive party, and the only reason you found out is that you found a digital camera from the night in question?
No, that is correct. When I retired, I thought I want to get away for a month. So I hired an apartment in New York, and Nathan Brown had retired as well. Me and Brownie went to New York for a month, and I had my house sitting there, and a former teammate of mine, a good friend of mine, Kane Pettifer, put his hand up to house sit for me. I said, that's all well and good, Train, but, you've got history and you like to, you like to have a good time. I said, mate, if you're going to stay here, no parties. I don't want any parties at my house. I get along well with my neighbours. It's not that sort of setup here. So, yeah, you can stay here, but just make sure you look after it and don't abuse it with any partying. And so anyway, I get home from America. You get that early flight in here to Melbourne, land at 7, rock up home. And Kane was still in bed. I walked down to the lounge room, and the house looked spotless. It looked perfect. I thought, Kane's really looked
bad sign.
Too clean.
I think he went too far. And then I saw a digital camera sitting on the coffee table, and it wasn't mine. I went over to it, and I just, pressed the on button. Well, if there wasn't about 100 photos of one of the biggest rip-roaring parties you've ever seen at my house, there were 50 people in the swimming pool. There were people in my bed sleeping. There were beer bottles everywhere. There were nice whiskey bottles lying all around the place. So I thought, this is good. So I turned the camera off, and I waited for Kane to get up. And he walked down the hallway. He said, welcome back, Rick. And I said, yeah, good to see you, Train. I said, now, mate, be honest with me here. You didn't have any parties, did you? And he said, no. Looked after it well, mate. So I threw the camera at him and said, what's this then?
Good.
And he said, oh, sorry, man. You got me.
The funniest part about that story is that's social media before social media. Digital camera.
Exactly.
Digital camera, yeah.
Exactly. The old digital camera got him.
Oh, that's so good. Now, Bailey Berry, 16, says he or she, could be both, either, adored you as a footy player growing up, Richo, but we're not going to ask that one because we did cover the 2017 grand final. Short for Decker.
How do you see the club care of players when you played compared to now? More or less of a business? Was it more of a less of a business when you were playing than it is now?
Oh, definitely less of a business. Yeah, it wasn't as big as what it is now. There wasn't as much money involved, and just the spotlight on the game now. Every single game's coverage, the media during the week, the amount of shows, the amount of columns that are spent on it. So. Yeah.
Does that translate then to care for the players? They're sort of treated now as assets as opposed to previous?
Oh, gee, it's a hard one. Look, they have more at their disposal at the club. Yeah, definitely. So I guess they would be. I always felt like we were treated well, but clearly there's a lot more people involved now, so they have got more at their disposal.
more resources now. Yeah, I like that. Now, I think it's unfair to say Richo wasn't preparing for a life in media playing footy. I mean, Wheel of Fortune, we've seen some of the ads he used to do. This one in particular, I think, is an interesting one. This is from Joey _Italiano. We love the double underscore.
Hey, Richo, do you have any funny stories or thoughts on the AFL Evolution? Oh, gosh, I'm just reading this for the first time because I was a big AFL Evolution player. Yeah. I'm going to read this question again. Do you have any funny stories / thoughts on the AFL Evolution commentary? And ask how much of a part of it
you were. Part of that? Did you keep commentary?
Yes, there is some all-time crackers with Richo on there. I'm just remembering this now.
Say that was one of the most tedious experiences of my life.
Please tell us how that works, because it's like...
You basically went into a studio.
This is for a game show. Anyone who doesn't know what AFL Evolution is, sorry. It's for a game. It's for a Nintendo,
console game,
PlayStation, that sort of stuff.
And you've basically just got to say one word over and over again, then two, then three, then a phrase, then one score, the next score, and I was there for 3 days just reading these lines off paper. It was hard to sound passionate and enthusiastic and upbeat, and I think that came across in the commentary from all accounts.
I just remember it just being like, Richmond scored a goal. Thanks, Richo.
You know what? You're absolutely spot on. And I have not had one person come and pump me up about that commentary. They could not pay me enough to do that again.
That is so...
And it wasn't great. Let me tell you, it wasn't great pay either.
Oh,
your special comments in that game.
That is
boy.
I do remember. Yeah. Brisbane in front. Oh.
West Coast. And it's just the same every time.
It was stuff like, what a specky. Great goal. What a kick.
And then you just hear, thanks, Richo. It's just like the one thanks, Richo, every time.
Oh, that's very good. That got me, Richo. I will say, I don't get gotten very often, but I'm crying with laughter over here. That's very good. Connor Morrissey music. Oh, that's as good as it gets.
Jack Revolt kicked 10 on Scoey. How many would have you managed?
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Connor. Next question.
He did at the G that day, didn't he?
They
weren't all on you, Scoey, though, were they?
There you go. Richo knows his stuff.
Probably
that's
8
correct.
or 9.
Yeah, 6 of them were. When you were telling the story about Kepler Bradley, actually, it brought back some vivid memories of Jack Rewald. Eric McKenzie started on Jack Rewald, and I remember quarter time. I was a second, third string defender at that stage, and Eric had been given the big task on Jack Rewald, who won the Norm Smith medal. Who won the Coleman medal that year. So I will say, it wasn't like it was some pleb kicking goals on me.
You had no hope.
Best in the competition. Anyway, quarter time, and our backline coach at the time, Daniel Metropolis, who no longer works at the club, came down and Rewald had kicked 4 goals, and he said, easy. So that was Eric McKenzie's nickname. Easy. Come here, easy, come here. I told you yesterday when I saw you walking around the hotel, you had no shoes on, you're walking around barefooted. I knew you weren't switched on. That's the reason this has happened. You bloody didn't switch on, and you're barefooting yourself around this hotel, and I'm sick of it. Scully, you're on Rewalt. Anyway, Rewalt kicked 6 goals the rest of the game. He kicked 10, and it was one of the worst experiences of my AFL career.
So, I love it our coaches used to try and find something for your bad form like that, like no shoes on.
Yes.
What was the one with the long sleeves? One of the coaches.
Peter Sumich. Sumich basically had Ashton Hams, who used to love wearing long sleeves. He wore long sleeves for quite a bit of his career, and he had a poor game one week, and Suma basically had him by the throat. He didn't have him by the throat, but he was very angry, and he had him pressed up against a wall, saying, "How dare you disrespect the jumper by wearing those long sleeves. You'll never wear those long sleeves again." Anyway, right next to Ashton Hams, they've got the Wall of Honour at West Coast. They put the picture up of the player playing his 100th game. Peter Sumich is in a long sleeve jumper in his 100th game.
You repped the long sleeve jumper a couple of times, didn't you?
I don't think I did.
I think I saw a photo of you wearing a long sleever.
Challenge.
Ooh. You know what? Email that to me if you find it, that photo.
All right. If we're right, what happens if we're right, Richo?
I could have on a wet day, but I can't remember.
You weren't that guy. Okay.
This one's a good one. Punter 72. I like this.
Richo, you were on one of few players in that era who we saw their best football after a full knee reconstruction. How long did it take you to feel like it was no limitation, and how annoyed were you with an inadequate SCG that had the boundary right on the fence?
Yeah, so I did my knee round 9.95 at the SCG, and they did move the boundary line in the next week. So it was an admission of guilt, basically, that it was too close. So yeah, look, if I didn't come back, I guess there would have been some legal stuff there for me. Anyway, I did come back. So yeah, did it in round 9, and I played round 1 the next year. I played all of the preseason games the next year in 96. And what I do remember is I didn't get a kick in the 3 lead-up games to round 1. We played Essendon in round 1, and I thought I was really struggling. I felt like felt like I was still limping, even though I probably wasn't. I just didn't have any confidence for whatever reason. We came out in round 1, and yeah, I had a good game, and it sort of just clicked, and I had a good year from there on. But for 3 weeks there, those first 3 games, I really felt like I was struggling. But in hindsight, it was probably just getting some Ks into the legs and getting a little bit of confidence up, and it sort of all clicked into round 1. Yeah, I think being young and just sort of hungry to get back was my motivation, was to prove people wrong and get back as quickly as I could, and then prove people wrong, saying that I wouldn't be the same player and all that sort of thing. And that's what I used through my rehab.
2 more questions of social media to go, and then we'll let you go, Richo. We appreciate your time. This second last one, we're going to tie into Media Watch, Richo. We do a bit of a segment on here as well. I'm just going to
get that article up.
No, I've got it up right here. Don't worry about that. Media Watch is just a bit of a look around the media landscape in the AFL, and just to see who's just a little bit out of line. You've never come up, and I don't think you will, but you know the types we're talking about. I'm not going to name them. We won't name and shame them. But, Richo, would you believe it? You're actually this week's Media Watch man.
Am I?
Yes, I'm looking at an article from the dailymail.co.uk. Got a few pictures on the top. Its title is Matthew Richardson shovels food into his mouth. And the social media, which I'll read this one out. This is from Mike Hells. How did Richo move on from this hard-hitting Daily Mail headline in 2014? So this is another headline of the same article. Yeah. Dine and dash. Former AFL player Matthew Richardson shovels food into his mouth as girlfriend Genevieve Holiday cringes and looks away while walking behind him. Richo, how did you ever recover from that, mate?
Well, the staggering thing about that is I actually did get papped, which I actually was wrapped, to be honest with you. I mean, I never thought I'd be papped, and I haven't been since. But I actually got papped that day, and it was about 100 metres from my house in Elwood. And we had if you're ever in Elwood in Victoria, go to the roundabout on Ormond Road and Broadway and Glen Huntly Road. There's the best bakery in Melbourne, just about right there. And I used to go down there on a Sunday, and we'd had a big night the night before. I think we'd had a wedding the night before, and we had to get down to the bakery and just get a couple of little treats down there, as you do when you're a little bit hung. And
yes,
I got this. I got a meat pie, and I had one of the aluminium trays underneath it, and I couldn't get it in quick enough. And I was packed in the middle of eating my meat pie. Right?
There's such bad photos.
I just don't know why I was packed, but I think I've worked out. Natalie Bassingwaite lived just around the corner, and I reckon they were there to get her, and she wasn't around. And then they saw me, and they just thought, "Oh, this bloke will do."
Have a look at this bloke get into his meat pie.
I've just eaten exactly like that while I've been walking. Like I'm just like, yeah, that's just how people eat when they're shoveling food down on a walk.
I know people who get papped regularly would find it annoying, but I was pretty happy with it, to be honest.
Oh, that's very good. Now, I'm going to finish social media with a private social media that I actually requested. I contacted someone at the West Coast Eagles. He'll remain unnamed, Warren Kofed, that he's one of Matty Richardson's good friends. They spent a bit of time together at Richmond. He's now the strength and conditioning coach at West Coast, been doing that for a long time, and I know you two are highly connected, Rich. I will start with this. He says that I single-handedly saved his career when he had recurrent hamstring issues. He owes everything he has to me. Would you like to respond to that?
You know what? He probably did. He probably did, because I was doing hamstrings regularly, and I just about, when you do soft tissue injuries, if there's anything that'll do your head in more, is a recurring soft tissue.
Yep.
Because you think that you're 100%, you've done all of the rehab, and then you get out and it goes bang in the game. And I was doing this regularly, and was starting to really wear me down mentally. And anyway, Kof got me on a good rehab program, and And yeah, he did. He got me back, and I hardly missed any games with my hammy up until I snapped it off the bone, and that was the end of my career. But my last 5 years, unfortunately, I've got to. You don't want to hear this,
no, I don't,
Scully, but Kof did get me back on track. One of the worst. He's got bad fashion though, Kof. I remember one night we're at the Mink Bar on a Sunday night in Melbourne, and it was at the end of the season, and Kof had bought these green suede Diesel boots. Remember Diesel were doing shoes there for a while?
Yeah.
And these things were horrible. So the boys were getting into Kof all night at this bar. We're having a few drinks.
Would have been stroppy about that.
Yeah, you know how grumpy he gets too.
You're all stroppy.
Anyway, we walked out of Mink Bar and we're walking up Backland Street there home, and Kof just took the shoes off and threw them in the bin, the $400 Diesels. We got to him that badly that he just threw them in the bin. But he's a good man, Kof. A very good man. I miss him, actually. I haven't seen him because of these border and COVID stuff.
Yeah, it's been a tough time for a lot of people separated across states. He did ask me to maybe mention, I mean, you're a big music fan. You love your live music. Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder. Any experiences with the great man Eddie Vedder? I walked down the aisle to Eddie Vedder. Alex and I, we had Eddie Vedder playing. Well, not live, but out of a tape recorder or something.
No one assumed Eddie Vedder was at your wedding.
Richo might have. I don't know. It sounds like you know him personally, Richo.
Well, I did. I was very lucky to have a friend who was involved with Pearl Jam when they toured here in 2009. At the end of 2009, I'd just retired actually, and we went to Pearl Jam. The day that I retired, we went to Pearl Jam the next night.
Wow.
And I think Eddie Vedder, wherever he goes, he reads the paper. And I was in the paper retiring. And one of the support bands, the Cosmic Psychos, he's a good friend with the lead singer, and he was a Richmond supporter. So it all just sort of aligned. And Eddie said, "Who's this guy?" And he ended up getting up, and at Marvel Stadium, he dedicated a song to me because I've just retired.
Oof.
Wow.
And anyway, we went backstage and I got a photo with Eddie, and, we were just standing around having a chat to all the crew in there and everyone. And I thought, that's it. Night, mate. I've met Eddie Vedder. I've had a photo with him. I've done the pest thing.
Yeah.
And I thanked him for what he did up on stage. And that was it. I was going to go home happy as Larry. And then Ross from the Cosmic Psycho said, "No, you're not going anywhere. We're going back to Eddie's hotel to have some beers." So next thing I know, I'm in Eddie's Tarago, leaving Marvel Stadium in Eddie Vedder's Tarago, and we end up back at the Como in South Yarra.
It's a people mover.
On the balcony of Eddie's room with a big bucket of Coronas, and sat there till about 4:30 in the morning. Best night of my life.
Oh,
Oof.
that is unreal.
And you know what? When they say you should never meet your heroes? Well, it's not true of Eddie Vedder. He could not have exceeded my expectations anymore. Oh. Absolute legend.
I could not be more jealous right now. If we're talking about people I'd like to speak to, Eddie Vedder's right there. As I said, walk down the aisle to him. So, Richo, look, we're allowed to swear. We haven't sworn once this podcast. I'm going to say, fuck you, mate.
I'll tell you what, a mate of mine was meant to come to that gig, and he didn't because he hadn't had something else on, and he sort of...
Shame.
And when I got home, I rang him the next day. I said, "Mate, if you had come," he couldn't believe it. How flat. He still brings it up now.
Oh, as you would. He'd still be... He could never live it down.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, unreal. I think that's a perfect place to end this one. We appreciate you giving us so much time, mate, and know you're a busy man, dad, media commitments, and the rest. Just wanted to say thank you, and it's been awesome, mate.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure.
And Richo, if you ever want to find us on social media, all the rest, just search BackChat on YouTube. We come up. Subscribe. Are you subscribed to us?
Are you subscribed to YouTube?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, Richard. It's better than Charlie.
I will be in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, thanks, mate. BackChat on YouTube, and then also BackChat _ TikTok, Instagram.
You can send us an email if you want to as well, Richo. hello@backchatpodcast.com.au. You can even look at us on our website, backchatpodcast.com.au. Anything I'm missing?
No.
You wouldn't be on Reddit, would you, Richo?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, stay well away from that. It's been fun, guys. We're saying goodbye to Richo and to you. All the best.
Thanks, mate.